Chapter 286. It wasn't just the Principality of Constantine who wanted to do something during the winter, there was also Satsuma Count. Taking advantage of the weak flow of the Sandy River in the winter, Banta City's Sandy River renovation project sped up and began cleaning up the sediment on the riverbed. During this cleaning work, the new flyer's newly developed large magic excavator was unveiled for the first time. Compared to the small magic excavators that were used to renovate farmland, although the newly developed large magic excavator was much worse than the excavators on Earth and could only be pulled around by horse carriages, the base and digging arms were imitated. As long as it was placed in the right position, its digging efficiency was basically the same as the 2.0 standard small excavators on Earth. With the help of the magic machines, the cleanup of the river bed went very smoothly. In just 2 months of winter, they had cleaned up all the sediment that had accumulated in the Sandy River in Banta City, lowering the entire river bed by close to 5 meters. At the same time, downstream of Banta City, the canal connecting the Sandy River to the Rum River had already been dug. According to the estimates of Porter, who was in charge of this project, it would take around a year and a half to dig through this canal. Considering the Sandy River renovation project and the canal opening in the future, Satsuma Count was prepared to build a dam upstream of Banta City under Su Yi's suggestion. Other than flood control, this dam had another function that Su Yi didn't tell Satsuma Count about yet, which was to use it as a water-powered power station. If it could be built according to Su Yi's ideas, even if the flow of the Sandy River wasn't that big, the power of this water-powered power station would be enough to satisfy Banta City's needs. But Su Yi was only a mechanical engineer, so he wasn't that familiar with power generation. So even if he developed the magic wind generator, he couldn't immediately develop a water-powered generator and even build a water-powered power station. So when building this dam, Su Yi could only tell Chairman Cruz some of his considerations. He wanted the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to leave enough space for the water-powered power station when building the dam. While researching the water-powered generator, Su Yi found a very important problem. He might be able to combine magic with his mechanical knowledge and create one new magical machine after another in this world, but his abilities were limited after all. For things like hydroelectric generators, which were completely outside of his professional knowledge, he was far less knowledgeable about them than he was about machinery. If he wanted to completely imitate it, even if he couldn't do it with his current abilities, it was still very difficult. His time could be considered very precious. He didn't have that much time to waste on this kind of research that he wasn't good at. This was a very contradictory problem. He wanted to copy all the important things from Earth's industrial system and create a complete industrial system in science, but he wasn't God. It was impossible for him to do everything. Don't do the things you can't do, just give it to others. Hearing Su Yi talk about his troubles, Still said with a relaxed smile. She gave a relaxed smile as she said, Su Yi, you are a human and not a god, so there will be some things that you can't do. If you're worried about this, you're just looking for trouble for yourself. Then again, why are you in such a rush to finish all the things you want to do? Su Yi could only shake his head and give a sigh. Of course he couldn't tell Steele that he had transmigrated from Earth, so although he had told Steele about his problems, he had only vaguely mentioned it. Of course Steele wouldn't understand the real reason for his problems. Alright, instead of wasting time worrying about this, you might as well use this time to do something else. Seeing that Su Yi's expression didn't turn for the better, Steele advised him again. You said that there are many things you can't do outside of the magic machines, so it's very simple. You just need to do your best with the magic machines. For example, you can't solve the problem of the hydroelectric generator, that's fine. Isn't the wind magic generator already researched well enough? You just need to do your best with this thing, and I feel that you can still achieve your goal. I can't do things that I can't do? Su Yi looked at Steele in a daze, as a trace of unwillingness appeared in his eyes. Steele held his face and looked at him with a serious nod. Yes. Everyone has their own limits. Even if Sue-E is very strong, even surpassing everyone I know, you still have your limit. Grandpa used to warn me about this. He didn't want me to waste too much time on magic that I wasn't good at. The world of magic is endless. It is impossible for a magician to explore it all. Then for a magician, the most important thing is to study the magic that they are good at. If they can do this, they can still become a powerful magician, and they can even change the entire magic world. I feel that this is the same for you. Hearing Steele's gentle persuasion, Sue-E fell into deep thought. After a while, his eyes gradually recovered. Steele was right. A person's abilities were limited, and it was impossible for them to do everything they wanted to do. Although he wanted to copy the industrial system from Earth to the continent, the reality was that other than him, there was no one else on the continent that had the knowledge and understanding of modern industries. The modern industrial system was a very complex and large system. Even if he was talented in mechanical engineering and had a deep foundation in theory and practice, it didn't mean that he had the same ability in other aspects. As a mechanical engineer, he should be more clear on the meaning of the word efficiency more than anyone else. Since the efficiency of researching in a field that he didn't understand was very low, it was meaningless for him to waste his precious time and energy on this. Since it was like this, it was better to recognize his advantages and explore the field that he was good at. Since the magic machines had already demonstrated their strength and were even superior to the machines on Earth, why wouldn't he continue his research in this field? Why would he waste his time on other things? He didn't understand the hydro generator, so his research was slow? Then he wouldn't research it for now. As long as he worked hard on the wind magic generator and the fire magic generator that Evita mentioned last time, he would be able to achieve the effect he wanted, and it might even be better. Even for the idea of the hydro generator, Akali had proposed that he could directly use the water magic array to solve this problem, which could also replace the use of water. Thinking of this, Sue-E suddenly realized that he wasn't the only person in this world with his own unique ideas. Other people weren't inferior to him either. After thinking of this, Sue-E suddenly had a flash of light in his mind, and he couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Ha ha! Ha! See? Steele, you're right, you're too right. Sue-E was actually laughing so hard that he couldn't breathe. Steele couldn't help being stunned. I won't do things that I can't do. How can I do everything by myself? The things that I can't do, I'll leave it to the people of the continent in the future. As for me, I just need to do the things that I can do and should do. Although Steele didn't understand what Sue-E was thinking when he said this, seeing how happy he was, she knew that he had thought it through, so she was also happy. That's right, you just need to do the things that you like and are good at, Steele said. Sue-E gave a strong nod before saying, but I can't ignore the other things. Although I can't do it, I believe that there will be people who can do it. I just need to raise these concepts, and there will definitely be people who will fulfill my wishes for me in the future. Steele, I think I know what to do. Steele looked at Sue-E with a confused gaze. What was he planning on doing? ####. 3 days later, the Banta Times used the front page, second page, and third page to publish an article by Sue-E. The title of the article was, "The World in My Eyes." When they saw the title, many people were confused while also feeling a bit curious. The new flyer was a company that always brought novelties to people, and everyone was very interested in Chairman Sue-E. Then what did this "The World in My Eyes" look like? Once the article was published, it immediately attracted the attention of everyone who saw the newspaper. Why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? Why is lightning always accompanied by thunder? Why do apples fall from branches to the ground? To many people, these 3 questions are very stupid because everyone feels that this is a natural thing and there is no reason for it. But for me, there are actually answers to these questions. In the following pages, Sue gave a general introduction to the movement of the heavens, the convection of clouds, and gravity. Although because of various concerns, his introduction was very vague, as long as one read this article, they would be able to see that he wasn't speaking nonsense, and that it really did make sense. Therefore, this article easily aroused people's curiosity. That's right, why? There were many things that people were already used to, so they didn't plan on asking why. But even if they were used to it, there would still be some reason behind it. However, after arousing the curiosity of the readers, Sue changed the topic and began to describe the various uses of the magic machines. After describing the benefits and effects of the magic machines, Sue began to describe the future of the magic machines to people at the end of the article. In his description, as long as the magic machines could develop, not only Banta City, not only the Lampari Kingdom, even the signs would undergo a heaven-shaking change. Everyone's lives would be different from before. Sue used refined words that had clearly been carefully considered to paint a moving picture of magic machines being popularized, but then he announced two pieces of news that no one expected. The first piece of news was that he was prepared to publish a series of books related to the basics of magic machines in the next few days. He would let everyone who was interested in magic machines know why magic machines were made and why they had all kinds of mysterious uses. If it was said that the first piece of news already surprised everyone, when people saw the second piece of news, they were even more surprised. The second piece of news was that Sue was prepared to open a school in his name. What was even more surprising was that this school wasn't a magic school or a school that taught skills, rather it was a school that taught basic knowledge. It would only let the students learn the most basic knowledge that Sue mentioned, deepening their understanding of the world. This knowledge included the why he mentioned at the beginning of the article. After seeing the article in the Banta Times, not only did the others not understand what Sue wanted to do, even the people around Sue didn't understand. Steele immediately took the newspaper to find Sue. I can understand your first decision since you've always said that you want the people of the signs to participate in the research of magic machines, so you can promote the development of the magic machine industry as soon as possible. Although there will be many competitors for the new flyer, you don't care anyway. Steele knit her brows. She looked at the Banta Times in her hand again, and her eyes were filled with confusion and doubt. But your second decision? It's too strange. Why do you want to open this kind of school? Money isn't a problem for you, but what about time? Do you have that much time to teach children? Sue smiled and didn't reply to Steele's question. He took out the new flight college's elementary plan that he had written last night and gave it to Steele. Take a look. After you finish reading this, you should understand. Steele doubtfully looked it over for a while before the confusion on her face gradually disappeared. After reading this plan that contained all of Sue's ideas for the school, Steele finally understood what Sue meant. But after thinking for a bit, she couldn't help asking, although I understand what you want to do, I still don't understand, why are you doing this? This won't help you promote magic machines, right? Sue revealed a faint smile. Although it doesn't help promote magic machines at all, there isn't any connection. However, the so-called industry wasn't just limited to the magic industry. I want to create this school to plant a seed in the signs. As for when it will take root and when it will bear fruit, that isn't something I can consider right now. Steele looked at Sue in a daze for a while before shaking her head and saying with a sigh, "There are times when I really don't understand what you're thinking. But forget it, as long as it's something you do, I will definitely support it. Who told me to be your fiancé?" After saying this, Steele revealed a naughty smile to Sue. Sue couldn't help but smile. He stretched out his arms to hug Steele and kissed her. Looking at Steele's happy smile, his heart was also filled with happiness. If it wasn't for Steele's explanation, he would probably still be in a dilemma and wouldn't be able to completely understand the path he should take. These two decisions might seem incomprehensible to many people, but Sue didn't need them to understand. He only knew that after making these two decisions, he instantly felt a lot more relaxed, and the future plan in his mind became clearer. Although Steele didn't quite understand the school he wanted to create, Sue was sure that in the future, schools like this would definitely blossom everywhere in the signs, even more than the current magic school. Of course, this wasn't something that Sue, who had already thought it through, would consider. This school, in the end, was just a consolation after he made his decision. Chapter 287. Just as everyone was looking forward to Sue's published books and the academy he founded, Sue quietly came to Anvil City alone. This time, he didn't meet anyone and directly found Major Mac Conley in the military logistics department. "Hey, Chairman Sue, I heard you made a trip to the Principality of Constantine?" Major Mac Conley immediately asked with a smile when he saw Sue. "What do you think of the Principality of Constantine? Do you feel that there's no hope for the Principality?" Hearing this question, Sue immediately understood that he wasn't the only one who knew about the laziness of the citizens of the Principality of Constantine and the greed of the upper class. It seemed that this was the consensus of a group of people. "It's not that there's no hope, but..." Sue shrugged and smiled bitterly. "It's really difficult to do anything over there." Mac Conley laughed and patted Sue's shoulder. "If you want to do something practical, you have to stay in the Lampari Kingdom. Especially for someone as capable as you shouldn't waste time in a place like the Principality of Constantine." Sue glanced at him and thought that if the Lampari Kingdom was like the Mala Empire and the Kanla Empire, he would be willing to develop well in the Lampari Kingdom. However, the Lampari Kingdom was a small country on the signs after all. Its resources weren't particularly abundant, and most of them had already been divided up by the nobles in the kingdom. A small company like Sue and the New Flyer had no chance of getting involved. Just like the cooperation between the New Flyer and the Joel family. According to Sue's true intentions, he naturally hoped to control the non-ferrous metals in the Lampari Kingdom in the hands of the New Flyer. However, he knew that the Joel family wouldn't be so generous, so he could only use the method of technical cooperation to obtain priority from the Joel family. As someone who transmigrated from Earth, Sue was very clear on the importance of controlling these resources. Since there was no hope in the Lampari Kingdom for the time being, Sue's gaze naturally shifted to other places. The reason why he chose to mine non-ferrous metal veins on the Black Rice Wasteland under the eyes of the Beastmen, and even ran out of the Lampuri Kingdom to buy 3 mines in the Stantine Duchy, even if he found that the Stantine Duchy and Duke Stantine weren't reliable, Sue still didn't give up. The reason was that as long as he grasped the resources of these two places, it was very likely that Sue would have complete control over them. If he could control the core energy problem in his hands, it would be worth it even if he had to pay a price. Of course, if he wanted to do this, he had to solve a very important problem first. Sue signaled to Major Mac Conley with his eyes, and Major Mac Conley immediately understood. He looked around and brought Sue to a secret room in his office. "You finished it this quickly?" As soon as he closed the door, Major Mac Conley looked at Sue with an excited look. Sue revealed a faint smile and took out a stack of blueprints from his bag for Major Mac Conley. Major Mac Conley quickly took it and didn't even call out to Sue as he began looking through it. After looking through it, Major Mac Conley's eyes became brighter and brighter. When he reached the end, he had a happy and excited smile. When he finished reading the last page, Major Mac Conley slapped his thigh and broke out in laughter. "Great! This is great! If we can use this magic trebuchet, our army's battle strength will increase by quite a bit." Sue said with a smile, "Of course. Although it hasn't been tested yet, this magic trebuchet is made of new steel and is very powerful. In theory, it can even hit a ton. Moreover, it doesn't need to be adjusted for a long time like the traditional wooden trebuchet. According to our initial design, it won't take more than half a minute to adjust after each launch. This means that as long as the stones are loaded fast enough, we can even launch 2 large stones in a minute? Major McConley asked with wide eyes. That's right. Sue-E gave a slight nod. Other than that, this is only the first version of the magic trebuchet. If it wasn't for you rushing me, I wanted to wait until the new continuous firing magic trebuchet was developed before bringing it over. Continuous firing magic trebuchet. Major McConley's bright eyes became even brighter. Could it be that it can be fired continuously? Pretty much. To be specific, the magic trebuchet can load the stones, launch them, adjust them, and then load the stones again. The soldiers in charge of the magic trebuchet just need to put the prepared stones into the ammunition box. Ammunition box? Major McConley knit his brows to think before reacting. It's a box specially used to put the stones? The reason why I call it an ammunition box is because to me, the stones of the trebuchet are its ammunition. After saying this, Sue paused as a smile of deep meaning appeared on his face. Actually, to be honest, things like stones can't be considered ammunition at all. Major McConley looked at Sue and wanted to ask something, but Sue clearly didn't want to talk about this topic. After thinking about it, he continued asking questions about the magic trebuchet. After understanding the basic questions, Major McConley nodded. All right, this magic trebuchet is quite good. Although it needs to be discussed by the generals of the Army headquarters before it can be decided, I feel that it will definitely pass. Chairman Sue, can I ask, how long will it take for your company to produce this magic trebuchet? It hasn't been put into production yet, so I can't give you an accurate time. But according to the estimates of the research facility, if it is put into production, it will take at least a week to finish one. It's actually only a week? That fast? Major McConley had a look of shock. I thought that with how complicated this thing is, it would take at least several months to make one. Sue revealed a faint smile, thinking that you're looking down on the miracles of industry too much. This was because the industrial foundation of science was too weak. Even the new flyer couldn't compare to the large factories on Earth. That was why a single magic trebuchet would take a week to finish. This magic trebuchet was very complicated in Major McConley's eyes and shocked him, but in the eyes of a mechanical engineer like Sue, its structure was very simple and wasn't worth mentioning at all. If it was placed in a country like Earth's heavenly court with a rather deep industrial foundation, perhaps any heavy machine factory would be able to finish it in just a few days. On the other hand, if mass production and assembly line production were included, on average, one machine might not even be used for a day. Major McConley looked at Sue with a bit of hesitation before asking, this. Chairman Sue, this magic trebuchet, do you think our Army headquarters can produce it ourselves? Sue immediately revealed a smile. As he expected, as long as he gave the blueprint, the Army headquarters would definitely want this magic trebuchet in their hands. But this time was different from last time, so Sue shook his head without even thinking. I'm afraid not. Sue said with a serious look. Major McConley, I think that you should know that this magic trebuchet is very complicated. Even if it's our new flyer, it would take quite a bit of effort to produce it. I don't think that the Army headquarters has this kind of production ability right now. You can't even give us the blueprint and the related technology. Major McConley kept asking in an unwilling voice. However, Sue firmly shook his head. No. Major, this is different from producing armors and weapons. The main factor in producing armors and weapons is the production magic machines provided by our company. The workers just need to know how to operate them, so there isn't much difficulty in producing them. But producing this magic trebuchet is far more complicated than producing armors and weapons. Even if I give you all the related technology, the army headquarters wouldn't be able to grasp it themselves. After saying this, Sui revealed a taunting smile before continuing. Then again, although it isn't impossible for us to give you all the related technology, what does the army headquarters plan on using as compensation? Major Mac Conley immediately fell silent. Of course he knew that the army headquarters could rely on the power of the kingdom to request Sui and New Flyer to do things according to their requests, or even force New Flyer to give them the technology. But if they wanted to obtain it for free, it was clearly impossible. This magic trebuchet was very powerful just from looking at the blueprint. If they could equip it with the Lampari Kingdom's army, it would definitely greatly increase the battle strength of the army, so the army headquarters had to obtain it. But if the army headquarters' attitude was too strong, it would cause Sui and New Flyer to be dissatisfied or even retaliate. It would cause the dissatisfaction of some important people who cared about New Flyer. Not to mention losing the chance to cooperate with New Flyer, it would be a very large loss. To put it bluntly, New Flyer was unique right now. Other than them, there wasn't a single company that could develop the military magic machines that the army headquarters needed. Even the concept of military magic machines was something that Sui had proposed first. So even if Major Mac Conley was the head of the army headquarters logistics department, he was still very polite to Sui. It wasn't just because Sui was valued by Her Highness Seveni and the king, it was because Sui and New Flyer could give the army headquarters something they urgently needed. After quickly considering these factors in his mind, Major Mac Conley gave up the idea of asking Sui and New Flyer to give all the technology to the army headquarters. After thinking about it, he said with a nod, "All right, Chairman Su, may I ask? How much is your company planning on charging for each magic trebuchet?" Sui raised a finger with a smile, 1,000 gold coins for one. Major Mac Conley's face turned ashen. Chapter 288. This. Major Mac Conley opened his mouth, and only after a while did he let out a long sigh. He said with a bitter smile, "Chairman Su, this price is just too expensive." Expensive? Sui shook his head. "Major, I thought that after you saw the blueprint, you should be clear on the might of the magic trebuchet. With such a strong might, do you think that this magic trebuchet would be cheap?" "I know that, but—" Mac Conley smiled helplessly. Sui had a helpless smile. "This price is still too high. I won't hide it from you, our logistics department's budget this year is less than 300,000 gold coins, and we only spend less than 100,000 on armaments. If it wasn't for the fact that we built a factory with your New Flyer that reduced the cost of armors by several times, I wouldn't even be able to take out a single copper coin." Sui couldn't help shaking his head. He thought that the Lampari Kingdom really was poor. Their annual revenue was less than 2 million gold coins and their military expenditure was only 300,000 gold coins. It was simply pitiful. This bit of money was already enough to cover the daily expenses of the army. It was no wonder Major Mac Conley complained to him every time he saw him. But sympathy was one thing. Sui wasn't planning on giving up a single copper coin for this price. "Major, although I want to help you, the cost of this magic trebuchet is just too high. Not mentioning anything else, just making a single magic trebuchet costs over 3 tons of steel. For this new type of steel, our company sells it at a high price of 100 gold coins per ton. Other than the cost of materials, the cost of labor is also a large expense, and the most important thing is the cost of research. In order to develop this magic trebuchet, the magicians of our company's magic research facility, Great Magician Camilla, as well as the magic mechanical engineers of the Magic Machine Development Workshop, have spent over 2 months on this. They've been working all night on this, even working overtime all night. Do you think 1,000 gold coins per unit is high? Indeed it isn't." Major Mac Conley nodded before giving a sigh. But Chairman Su, the problem is that our army headquarters can't take out that much money. With the remaining budget for this year, I'm afraid the military will only be able to buy 3 at most. If you want to buy it, you don't have to spend gold coins. Su-yi reminded her softly. Major McConley glanced at Su-yi with a complicated expression. After thinking for a while, he waved his hand and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Even if they wanted to buy it, they would have to wait until your Chamber of Commerce took out something real and let those big shots see the actual effect before they would be truly moved. It's too early for us to discuss anything else." Seeing that Major McConley didn't want to talk about it, Su-yi tactfully stopped talking about it. Of course, apart from this topic, Su-yi didn't mention the more important purpose of this trip. After Major McConley carefully put away the blueprint, Su-yi directly extended his hand to him. "Major, I've already done what I promised you. What about the person you promised me? Come with me." Major McConley waved his hand at Su-yi and led him out of the office. They came to the training ground outside and waved at a large man standing there. That large man ran over and gave Major McConley a clean military salute. He looked at Major McConley and didn't even look at Su-yi. Looking at his sturdy physique, straight posture, determined expression, and the deep scars on his exposed skin, it was obvious that he was a veteran who had been on the battlefield for a long time. "Come, Chairman Su, let me introduce you. He is called Hart. He is a veteran who just retired this year. Since Hart joined the army, he has been fighting with his life on the northern battlefield against those bastards from the Sac Kingdom, so he has rich battle experience. The most important thing is that he was an instructor in the Northern Army before, leading a group of brothers under him. If you want him to be the captain of your company's guards, he is definitely the most suitable person." Major McConley pointed at the large man and introduced him. Hearing Major McConley's words, Hart turned to look at Su-yi. The two looked at each other and Su-yi's scalp turned numb. A killing intent that almost materialized hit him, instantly giving him goosebumps. Su-yi narrowed his eyes and took a deep breath. He forced himself to calm down and looked at Hart as much as possible. Hart's eyes were very bright. Seeing that Su-yi didn't avoid his gaze, he was a bit surprised before revealing a smile of praise. "You are the new Flyers Chairman Su?" Hart took the initiative to reach out his hand. "You're much better than I imagined." Su-yi reached out to shake his hand before asking with a smile, "In your imagination, what should I be like?" "In my imagination, merchants are all trash who only have money in their eyes," Hart said without any politeness. "If it wasn't for the Major finding me and assuring me that Chairman Su isn't like other merchants, I wouldn't have come to see you at all," Major McConley said with an awkward smile. "Chairman Su, Hart's personality is like this, don't lower yourself to his level." Su-yi laughed. "It's fine, I like this kind of straightforward personality. For a soldier like Hart, if he can be the captain of our company's guards, I believe that no one will dare provoke our company in the future." Since both Su-yi and Hart were satisfied, this meeting was considered a success. With Major McConley as a witness, Su-yi and Hart signed an agreement, hiring him to be the captain of the new Flyers Guards. Other than Hart, Major McConley had recruited a total of 200 veterans who were around the same age as Hart for Su-yi. These veterans were all elite soldiers who had experienced hundreds of battles. After retiring, they would become the targets of all the large companies in the Lampari Kingdom. If it wasn't for his relationship with Major McConley, it would have been impossible for Su-yi to get 200 of these veterans in one go. Of course, compared to the deep cooperation between the military and the new flyer, this request could only be considered a small price to pay. After dealing with this matter, Su-yi left the military and went to see Joseph Marquis again. When he came to Anvil City last year, Su-yi and Joseph Marquis had discussed the matter of mining non-ferrous metal veins in the Lampari Kingdom. Now that a few months had passed, the preparations for both sides were basically done. Through the Norma tribe's dwarves, they had found a non-ferrous metal vein near Kramer City and decided to mine it. According to the previous agreement between the two sides, New Flyer and the Joseph family originally planned to cooperate to open a steel mill near Kramer City. Now that the non-ferrous metal vein had been discovered, Sue simply expanded the steel mill so that it could simultaneously smelt the special steel and non-ferrous metals needed by the military equipment. This way, the scale of the steel mill could even be compared to the steel mill in the Falling Rain Valley from the beginning. Even for the Joseph family, the opening of the steel mill was a very meaningful matter, so Joseph Marquis was very cautious when Sue came to visit. The discussion between the two sides was very smooth. Joseph Marquis didn't reveal too much of his intentions on the surface, but for an important person like him in the Lampari Kingdom, sometimes as long as he didn't explicitly express his opposition, it would mean that he agreed with it. Sue didn't expect him to be like Chairman Morgan and openly bargain with him. He only knew his basic intentions from him and achieved his goal. The only accident was that when Sue left the Marquis mansion, he coincidentally bumped into Vincent, who was returning home. The moment he saw Sue, Vincent's expression became very interesting. After being scolded by his father in front of Sue and being forced to apologize to Sue, even if Vincent was unwilling and angry, he clearly knew that Sue wasn't on the same level as him. No matter how much he hated Sue, he didn't dare do anything to Sue. So Vincent only glared at Sue and walked past him as if he didn't see anything. Sue naturally wouldn't argue with this kind of person and left the Marquis mansion with a smile. This time in Unveil City, Sue only stayed for 3 days, meeting with Major MacConley, Joseph Marquis, and Great Magician Eisenkel. Other than having an important deal with Major MacConley, meeting with Joseph Marquis and Great Magician Eisenkel was just to confirm their cooperation. It could only be considered a visit since he was in Unveil City. Sue wanted to use this chance to meet Her Highness Seveni, and it would be best if he could see the king, but he was told that Her Highness had gone to the north for an inspection and it was unknown when she would come back. In short, this trip to Unveil City for Sue, other than achieving his most important goal and solving the problem of the guards, he didn't achieve anything else. But based on Major MacConley's reaction, Sue was certain that as long as New Flyer could make the magic trebuchets and let the important people of the army headquarters see the might of the magic trebuchets, there would be a market for this thing. Although what Sue said to Major MacConley wasn't wrong and the cost of the magic trebuchets was very high, it was still a bit exaggerated. According to the budget, if one took away the research and development costs, the cost of the magic trebuchets should be around 600 to 700 gold coins a day. The research and development cost was before mass production. Once it was developed, it would be quickly distributed to mass production and it wouldn't take up that much of a share. According to this, as long as New Flyer sold a single magic trebuchet, they would earn a large profit of over 200 gold coins or even close to 300 gold coins. The only obstacle was that the army headquarters didn't have any money. But for Sue, this wasn't that big of a problem. Money, Sue and New Flyer weren't that lacking. Compared to this, there were many things that couldn't be bought with money that were more important. Chapter 289. It was the same season, but it was completely different in different places. The weather in early February, in the Principality of Constantine, it was filled with greenery and a warm breeze. In Banta City, although it was no longer snowing, it was still a bit cold. But in the northern border of the Lampari Kingdom, it was filled with snow and a cold winter. On a day when it was snowing, Seveni met Viscount Leslie in a northern army outpost on the border between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom. When she first saw Viscount Leslie, Seveni almost didn't recognize him. Whether it was when she met him in Unveil City or when she met him in Banta City, Viscount Leslie had completely changed. The current Viscount Leslie had a face full of stubble and his skin was rough and dark. He was no different from the rough men Sevigny had seen in the Northern Army. He didn't have the clean and handsome appearance of a noble young master from before. Viscount Leslie, it seems like your days here are quite hard. Sevigny couldn't help saying. Viscount Leslie revealed a faint smile. Compared to before, the only thing that didn't change was his smile. Although his appearance had become coarse when he smiled, he still exuded the unique and calm temperament of someone who came from a great noble family, just like before. It isn't hard at all, I'm just living the life of a normal soldier. Moreover, I've received special care. Relatively speaking, my conditions here are much better than most of the brothers in the army. Sevigny fell silent, and only after a while did she give a sigh. Actually, Royal Father and I are very clear that the conditions of the soldiers in the army are very bad and need to be improved. But you should be clear on the kingdom's financial situation, so even if Royal Father is anxious, he can't take out the money to change this situation. I'm very clear on this, so I'm not complaining for my brothers, rather I'm just describing a fact to you. Viscount Leslie said with a serious look, Your Highness, I have to tell you that the situation in the north is very serious. Since winter came, those brats from the sacked kingdom have been attacking fiercely and they haven't stopped even now. The northern army has been fighting for all these days, so they have already suffered heavy losses. If it wasn't for the large amount of armor and weapons sent by the army headquarters last time, they wouldn't have been able to hold on. After saying this, Viscount Leslie paused and the expression on his face became a bit strange. Your Highness, I always had a question. Since the army headquarters doesn't have money, what conditions did they use to satisfy that greedy fellow Sui? Hearing the name, Sui, Sevigny revealed a heartfelt smile as she shook her head. Chairman Su, he isn't a greedy person. He always said to me that what he hoped for the most was the development of the magic machine industry. This required a stable and healthy environment, and the Lampuri Kingdom's environment wasn't ideal, so he had to support the kingdom to become stronger and more stable. This time the army headquarters cooperated with the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to build this weapon factory, and he has paid quite a bit, but he never asked for anything in return. No, I understand him. He definitely won't ask for anything in return. Only you can't give him the things he wants right now, so you're just keeping a tab for now. When he really asks for these things in the future, I feel that you won't be able to take it. I don't agree. Sevigny shook her head. Actually, I've been in contact with him more than you, so I understand him better than you. Although he has always emphasized that he is a merchant and the most important thing is his own benefit. But the benefits he cares about are different from other merchants. The other merchants only care about the benefits in front of them. The most direct thing is gold coins. But the benefits that Sui cared about the most were bigger and longer term than all the merchants, even more than all the people. Even if he asks for something in return, I think that I will definitely be willing to give it to him. Viscount Leslie looked at Sevigny's determined expression with a bit of surprise. After thinking for a bit, he suddenly asked, What if he asks for something in return from you? Sevigny was surprised before knitting her brows. You mean that you want me to marry him? No, that's impossible. Sui and Steele have deep feelings for each other, and there's no room for anyone else, so it's impossible for him to make this request. That's not certain. Viscount Leslie slowly shook his head. Your Highness, if you can inherit the throne and become our Lampari Kingdom's queen, Sui will have the strongest backing in the kingdom if you marry him. Like this, it will be very important for him to realize his dreams. If he really is a businessman, he should definitely accept such a deal. I've said it before, Sui isn't a shallow merchant. Sevigny looked at Viscount Leslie and said with a serious expression, Viscount Leslie, Sui has always told me that you helped him a lot when New Flyer was first built, and you are someone who can understand his thoughts. so he has always treated you as a friend in his heart. Since he treats you as a friend, I hope that you won't make any malicious guesses about him." Viscount Leslie revealed a faint smile. "This isn't a malicious guess, it's just a very rational guess. Other than that, Your Highness, you didn't deny the possibility of marrying him, right? Could it be that you also have this intention?" Sevigny had a blush on her face before returning to normal. She calmly looked at Viscount Leslie and asked back, "Are you seriously asking this question?" Viscount Leslie nodded. "I'm serious. Since Sue treats me as a friend, then as a friend, I should help him understand this very important question." Sevigny silently looked at Viscount Leslie for a bit before letting out a soft sigh and replying with a calm expression, "Then I'll answer you, yes. Although according to Royal Father's wishes, he hopes that I can marry the heir of a large noble family to increase the power of the royal family. Among these candidates, Royal Father's first choice was you, Viscount Leslie." Viscount Leslie revealed a faint smile. "That would be my honor. But I don't agree with Royal Father's idea." Sevigny shook her head. "Including your stag family, each large family has their own considerations. They won't completely lean towards the royal family because of me marrying the heir of a large noble family. Am I right, Viscount Leslie?" "Very right." Viscount Leslie gave a soft clap to show his praise. "Your Highness, I have to say, you've seen through this very clearly. Any large noble family has their own family, so they will only consider the benefits of their family first. Actually, even the royal family is just the strongest noble family in the kingdom in the end. Your Highness, whoever you marry will only have a symbolic meaning and won't have any real meaning. Because what can truly make two families cooperate is always the benefits of both sides. So that means that my marriage doesn't really decide anything. Compared to marrying the heir of a large noble family like you, it's better to marry a normal person. It has more meaning to me." "For example, Sue?" Viscount Leslie immediately asked. Sevigny couldn't help closing her eyes to take a deep breath before opening them. She maintained her calm as she nodded. "Yes. Although Sue has the title of Baron, no one actually treats him as a noble and he is still considered a normal person. But the new flyer he has isn't normal at all. I'm even certain that if the Frestec Chamber of Commerce can develop like this, it will really change the entire Signs continent like he said. I am also very certain of this." Viscount Leslie nodded in agreement. Sevigny nodded. "So if I can marry him and let the power of the new flyer be used by the royal family, it will be more helpful to the royal family than any other family. Compared to this is actually a better choice." Viscount Leslie was silent for a bit before nodding. "Your Highness, your analysis is very correct. But I feel that you've overlooked a very important problem. You and Sue marrying will be very helpful to the royal family, but have you considered your own feelings? Are you willing to marry Sue?" Hearing this question, Sevigny couldn't keep her calm as a blush couldn't help appearing on her face. After a while, she said with a nod, "I think I'm willing. Sue is a humorous person with a calm and magnanimous personality. I've been with him for a long time, and as long as I'm by his side, I'll feel very relaxed. I'll be infected by his strong confidence and be filled with confidence in the future. I believe that if I can marry him, I'll be much happier in the future." Viscount Leslie had only casually asked this, but he never thought that Sevigny would give such a certain answer. He couldn't help looking at Sevigny in a daze with a complicated expression. The two were silent for a long time before Viscount Leslie gave a sigh and shook his head with a bitter smile. "Your Highness, I'm suddenly beginning to sympathize with you. With your status, it was impossible for you to find a husband that was suitable for you and could be recognized by you. Now that Sue has appeared, if you're really willing, I think it's very possible for you to steal him. But I know that you definitely won't steal from young Miss Steele, right?" Sevigny gave a sigh and shook her head. She looked at the snow in the distance and silently thought for a bit before turning back to Viscount Leslie. Everyone has something they're not willing to change. Sue won't change his feelings for young Miss Steele because of me, just like how you would rather go against your family's interests and insist on returning your shares to Sue. Isn't that right? Viscount Leslie revealed a bitter smile again. Very right, so I've been exiled to this bitter cold border by my family, missing the peaceful life in the city while watching the snow every day. Seveny revealed a faint smile. Isn't this another kind of life experience? When you return to Anvilmar City or Banta City, I think those noble ladies and young misses will want to hear you tell them about your dangerous life here. Viscount Leslie gave a shrug. I can't guarantee that when I leave this place, I won't be able to keep my handsome face. Seveny and Viscount Leslie looked at each other and couldn't help breaking out in laughter at the same time. His laughter instantly passed through the endless wind and snow, spreading far and wide in all directions. Chapter 290. Laughter naturally couldn't travel over 1,000 kilometers and come to Banta City. However, it was unknown if it was because Her Highness Seveny and Viscount Leslie were discussing him, but even if Sue was hiding in the warm conference room of the City Lord's manor, he couldn't help sneezing. This sudden sneeze interrupted Count Sean's speech and also attracted the attention of everyone in the conference hall who had been listening attentively. Samo Count put down the report in his hand and looked at Sue with a smile as he said, "What? Chairman Sue, are you dissatisfied with the report in my hand?" Sue quickly shook his head. No, I don't have any objections. I just suddenly felt a bit cold. Cold? Samo Count looked at the 2 magic air conditioners on the wall and said with a smile, "These are the Shinfei brand magic air conditioners produced by your company. If you still feel cold with them, I should ask you if you as the chairman of New Flyer have neglected your duty." Ha ha. Of course everyone knew that Samo Count was teasing Sue, so they broke out in laughter. Sue laughed. "That's impossible, the quality of the Shinfei brand magic air conditioners can be trusted, there definitely won't be a problem. Perhaps it's because I went to the Sandy River with Steele last night and caught a cold from the cold wind." There was another round of laughter in the hall. Chairman Rank, sitting not far from Sue, gave a long sigh. Chairman Sue is still young and strong, he even dares to stroll by the river on such a cold night. For an old man like me, I'm not willing to go out once it gets dark. Everyone agreed, teasing Sue one after another. With the development of New Flyer, Sue's position in Banta City had also risen. He was gradually able to sit on the same level as the old company chairman. Although everyone would often make fun of him because of his age, no one would express any disdain for him. Even Chairman Morgan, who was the most hostile to Sue before, because of the agreement between Sue and Joseph Marquis, New Flyer and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce began cooperating. He no longer showed any hostility to Sue, rather he was very close to Sue, whether it was in front of everyone or in private. After laughing and joking with everyone for a while, the somewhat serious atmosphere in the conference hall suddenly became relaxed. When everyone's voices stopped, Sue turned to Count and said, "Lord City Lord, I have no objections to this report, but I have a suggestion." "Oh? Then let's hear it." Not only Count, even the others stopped laughing. They all looked at Sue with looks of concern. After being with Sue for a long time, everyone was very clear that the words Sue said in this kind of situation wouldn't be random, it would have a large or small effect. If it was a suggestion he made, the Lord City Lord would never reject it, and it would always have quite a bit of effect. Lord City Lord, in the report you just read, Banta City's plan this year is to reclaim wasteland, expand farmland, and increase grain yield. Of course I don't have any objections to this. I have no objections to this, but I feel that you've overlooked a very important problem. What problem? Count asked in a curious voice. That is manpower. Sue said. I feel that if there aren't any related measures, there will be fewer and fewer farmers in Banta City. In the end, there will be no one farming. Count knit his brows. How is that possible? There are over 100,000 farmers in the villages outside Banta City. How could there be no one farming? It's fine if you can't manage it before, but now with the help of your Frestek Chamber of Commerce's agricultural magic machines, it's much easier and more efficient. Even if there are fewer people, there won't be a problem. I made this plan because I considered this. Could it be that your company isn't planning on producing agricultural magic machines in the future? Of course not. Sui immediately shook his head. Count shook his head, but Lord Count, you might not have noticed a fact. Although there are over 100,000 registered farmers outside Banta City, have you calculated how many people are still farming in the villages? Count was surprised. Could it be that you're saying that these farmers aren't farming anymore? Then what are they doing? Sui laughed and pointed at himself before pointing at the representatives of the other companies sitting in the conference hall. It's very simple, these farmers are all working in the factories. Count was surprised. He looked at Sui and the representatives of the other companies before revealing a look of understanding. You want to say that the farmers are all working in the factories of your companies and aren't willing to farm? Of course. Count nodded. Right now the average monthly wage of the factories of the large companies in Banta City is over 7 gold coins. Even the workers who have just entered the factories on probation can receive a wage of over 4 gold coins a month. Compared to the trivial few gold coins a year from farming, it's clear that the wages of workers in the factories are much higher. If I were a farmer, I wouldn't be willing to farm and would choose to work in the factories. This is indeed a problem, I've neglected it. Count knit his brows to think before asking, Chairman Su, how many workers does your company have right now? Not counting the elves and dwarves, just the day before yesterday, we broke through the 4,000 mark. Sui raised 4 fingers as he replied. When the new canned fruit factory is finished, we'll need to recruit another 500 workers. Other than that, according to General Manager Kennard's estimates, we need to recruit at least 1,000 workers by the end of the year. This means that just your new flyer will take away over 5,000 people. Yes. Count asked the other chairman of the large companies, and the answers he received were the same. As the new flyer kept developing various magic machines, the other large companies of Banta City kept changing their production model to an industrial model. As the scale of production became bigger, they needed more and more workers. Just the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce alone had over 20,000 workers. Other than the 6,000 workers who were working on the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's traditional construction projects, the remaining 13,000 workers were scattered across the Lampari Kingdom, the Kingdom of Ruhr, and the Principality of Constantine, working hard to build road. Compared to this, the workers of the new flyer were considered few. Adding in the workers of the new flyer, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the Armani Chamber of Commerce, the Serac Chamber of Commerce, and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, the 5 recognized large companies of Banta City, there were over 70,000 people. Adding in the workers of the other companies of Banta City, there were over 100,000 workers working in the factories of Banta City. This didn't include the people working in the other industries. If it was added in, there were close to 200,000 people working in the other industries. After receiving this estimate, Samo Count couldn't help being a bit stunned. Since there were close to 200,000 people working in the other industries, putting aside the old, weak, women, and children who couldn't work, of course there wouldn't be anyone working in agriculture. Moreover, the total population of Banta City didn't even reach 200,000. If it wasn't for the large amount of foreigners entering Banta City, the workers of these companies wouldn't have reached such a terrifying number. Not to mention that even like this, the large companies led by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce often complained to the city lord that they didn't have enough people, hoping that he could find a way to bring in more workers from other places. Thinking of this, Samo Count couldn't help looking down at the report in his hand, flipping to the part that hadn't been read yet. The topic of today's meeting was a summary of the work done in Banta City last year. The final part of the report was the various tax statistics of Banta City last year. The reason why the representatives of the large companies were invited to today's meeting was because, in terms of the tax statistics, the large companies had performed very well. But looking at the tax statistics again, Samo Count still felt that it was unreal. According to the final statistics of the Banta City Tax Department, in just a single year, Banta City's tax revenue had reached a terrifying 1,370,000 gold coins. It had to be known, according to the numbers released by the Kingdom's Tax Department, the Lampari Kingdom's tax revenue last year was less than 2 million gold coins. According to the law of paying a third of the tax, Banta City had paid 450,000 gold coins, which was close to a quarter of the kingdom's tax revenue. This was a very terrifying result. This was because the year before last, Banta City's tax revenue was less than 50,000 gold coins. Among the 26 cities of the kingdom, they were at the bottom of the rankings. Now that only 2 years had passed, Banta City's tax revenue had even surpassed the capital Anvilmar City, becoming the city with the highest tax revenue in the kingdom. If one looked back at the 1,370,000 gold coins that Banta City had received, they would find that although the agricultural tax revenue had greatly increased with the help of the agricultural magic machines, going from less than 30,000 gold coins to close to 100,000 gold coins, compared to the business tax revenue of over 1 million gold coins, it wasn't worth mentioning at all. In other words, the agricultural tax revenue that used to be the most important to Banta City could already be ignored because the most important industry had already become business. If one divided it a bit more, one would find that in the business tax revenue, just the new flyer alone was a large number of over 500,000 gold coins. If one added in the tax revenue from the various magic machine companies related to the new flyer, it would be over 700,000 gold coins, which was over 2/3 of the total. This meant that if one really calculated it, the most important industry in Banta City right now was the magic machine industry represented by the new flyer. Thinking of this, Su Yi's importance in Count Samo's heart couldn't help increasing. He looked up at Su Yi and said with a faint smile, "It seems like the problem that Chairman Su mentioned does exist, and it is very important. Then Chairman Su, what is your suggestion?" Su Yi replied with a nod, "My suggestion is to promote the development of the agricultural industry." Chapter 291. After the meeting was over, Samo Count had Su Yi stay alone again. No one was surprised by this because in the meeting just now, Samo Count didn't keep asking about the agricultural industrialization that Su Yi mentioned, so of course he wanted to discuss this with Su Yi alone after the meeting. But it was different from what everyone thought. Samo Count didn't immediately ask about the agricultural industrialization after he had Su Yi stay, rather he asked about another problem that many people had forgotten. "Chairman Su, the canned fruit factory you mentioned just now, I remember that you mentioned it to me before. You were planning on opening it in the Principality of Constantine. Now you're saying that you want to recruit 500 workers from Banta City. Could it be that you're planning on bringing these workers to the Principality of Constantine?" Samo Count asked. "Of course not." Samo shook his head. "The cost of recruiting people from here to the Principality of Constantine is too high. My meaning is to build a canned fruit factory in Banta City first. The location has already been chosen. It'll be beside Koror Village, outside the city." "Koror Village?" Count Shan thought for a moment. Samo Count thought about it. "This village isn't on the first list you gave me and it isn't close to Banta City, so why did you choose that place and not the Santun Industrial District?" "It's mainly because the area around Koror Village has the highest concentration of fruit groves in Banta City. After discussing it with Chairman Cantona, we've decided that it will be the center of Banta City's fruit production base. The canned fruit factory will be built there, making it easier to process the fruit right away. Sui replied. Chairman Cantona? Samo Count slightly knit his brows. I think I've heard you mention this name before. Isn't his company mainly helping farmers harvest their crops? Why would he discuss building a fruit production base with you? Lord City Lord, this is related to the agricultural industrialization I mentioned just now. It can even be said that Chairman Cantona is the most important person and his company is also the most important person. Samoyed Count couldn't help but laugh. I haven't mentioned it yet, but you brought it up first. All right, since you took the initiative to mention it, then tell me in detail. How is Chairman Cantona and his company related to the agricultural industrialization you mentioned? What do you mean by agricultural industrialization development? All right. Sui nodded and did not refuse. After sorting out the thoughts in his mind, he said seriously, Castellan, regarding the development of agricultural industrialization, it sounds like a very complicated thing, but if you put it in another way, it's actually very simple and easy to understand. Simply put, everything related to farming will be treated as a complete industry and handed over to others to do. The city lord's mansion only needs to receive enough food every year. Isn't that just renting out farmland? What's the difference from now? Samoyed Count asked with knit brows. Samoyed knit his brows. Banta City's farmland is being rented out to farmers outside the city and the city lord's mansion only needs to collect rent each year. Isn't it the same thing as the thing you're talking about? Of course it's not the same thing. Sui shook his head and said, it's also renting, but the farmers outside the city are only renting a small piece of farmland, so the income each year isn't high. So the farmers aren't interested in renting farmland and would rather work in the factories of the large companies. But if we carry out industrial transformation, gathering these scattered farms together and planting them as a whole, we can free the farmers and give the farmland to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, who specializes in farming, increasing the value of the farmland. Whether it is for the Cantona Chamber of Commerce or the city lord's mansion, this is a very helpful matter. But wouldn't those farmers have no farmland to farm? Count Sean's brows were tightly knit. Samoyed knit his brows. If we take the farmland from the farmers, wouldn't we be cutting off their livelihood? Sui couldn't help shaking his head. Lord City Lord, you're still stuck in the same old thinking. Didn't I tell you in the meeting just now? Now there aren't many farmers outside the city who are willing to farm. This is because compared to earning less than 10 gold coins a year working in the fields, they can earn over 100 gold coins a year working in the factories. With such a large difference, even if you give them farmland, they won't be willing to farm. Although you are right, I still feel that this will cause problems. Count Sean shook his head lightly. Samoyed shook his head. Although the wages of working in the factories are much higher, how can you guarantee that they will always have this job? If the factories close and the workers lose their jobs, finding that they can't even farm, it will definitely cause a large problem. Sui revealed a faint smile. I understand your worries. But Lord City Lord, I feel that you should be more confident in Banta City's overall development. Compared to worrying about which company's factory closing and the workers losing their jobs, you should worry about whether Banta City can keep up with its rapid development and satisfy the large demand for manpower for our companies. Samoyed Count glared at Sui. Don't remind me in a roundabout way, I've always been bringing in manpower. Only the nobles of the kingdom place importance on the people in their territories, so this work isn't easy to do. Alright, since you said that I don't need to worry about this problem, then let's not talk about it for now. Based on what you just said, is the Cantona Chamber of Commerce planning on renting a large piece of farmland? Yes. After discussing this with Chairman Cantona has decided that he wants to rent all the farmland around Koror Village, Cambia Village, and Hemp Orchid Village. What great courage! He actually wants to take over 3 villages in one go. Count Sean praised. Samoyed praised. But has he ever thought that the farmland in these 3 villages has already been rented by the farmers? Even if I want to rent the farmland to him, it wouldn't be easy to take it back. How is he planning on solving this problem? Sui didn't immediately reply to Count Samoyed's question and was silent for a bit. After hesitating a bit, he said in a hesitant voice, "Lord City Lord, actually. In my opinion, the kingdom's treatment of the farmers is very bad. The farmers work hard every year, but in the end most of their harvest is taken away by the kingdom. At most they can only barely make a living. This kind of life, I don't think that the farmers would be reluctant to part with it." Samoyed Count knit his brows as he looked at Sui. He found that his expression was very serious and didn't seem like he was speaking nonsense, so he gave a soft sigh and helplessly said, "Although what you said is true, these are the rules. Not only our Lampari kingdom, in all the Signs countries, the lives of the farmers aren't that good. So, Lord City Lord's worries aren't necessary." Sui changed the topic. Cantona used to be a farmer in Cambia village, so he is very clear on the attitude of the farmers towards farming. In a situation where there is no choice, farming is the only way to survive. But in a situation where there is a choice, the farmers aren't willing to continue farming. "You mean, those farmers are willing to let me take back the farmland from them and rent it to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce?" Samoyed Count asked. "Yes. Actually, Cantona wanted to bypass the city lord's manor and directly rent the farmland from the farmers. Moreover, he had done a survey in these 3 villages, and more than 95% of the ordinary farmers had clearly expressed their agreement. But when he asked me for my opinion, I rejected it." Samoyed Count gave a cold snort. "It's good that you rejected it. He wants to hide this matter from me? He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth." After pausing, he asked Sui, "Now that you've taken the initiative to mention this matter to me, does that mean you support him?" "I support his idea, but I don't support his method, so I took the initiative to mention this to Lord City Lord, hoping that you can find a more reasonable method." Sui said. "Then what is your specific opinion?" Samoyed Count asked back. "My opinion is that I hope Lord City Lord can agree to include the 3 villages in the first trial and agree to rent all the farmland in the 3 villages to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce. Lord City Lord just needs to treat the Cantona Chamber of Commerce as a normal farmer, and the taxes they collect each year won't be a single copper coin less. The only difference is that the area of farmland contracted by the farmer will be a bit bigger. In theory, this idea isn't bad." Samoyed Count nodded. "But I have a very important problem. It's the same farmland and it's barely enough for the normal farmers to survive. Now that it's in the hands of the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, how can they guarantee the taxes and earn enough money from it? To put it simply, it's through industrialization and saving costs, changing the structure, and increasing production to obtain benefit. Of course, if you want to do it, it's a very complicated matter. But this actually doesn't have much to do with you, City Lord, right? You just need to collect enough taxes each year. As for how to obtain benefits from this, that is something the Cantona Chamber of Commerce should consider." Sui said. "That's right, but I'm worried that if the company can't earn money from this, they will give up and let the farmland go to waste. I think you don't need to worry about this. I've already discussed this with Chairman Cantona many times, and I can guarantee that their company will find many ways to earn money. They will definitely try this out." Seeing Suyi's confident smile, Samoyed Count couldn't help smiling. "I forgot that since you're participating in this matter, how could it not earn money? Am I right? The chairman Su that everyone thinks can turn a rock into gold coins?" Sui laughed and nodded without any politeness. Chapter 292. Even if there were many people in Banta City who treated Sui as an existence that could turn stone into gold, he didn't immediately earn money with every investment he made. For example, the most important project for New Flyer during this time was the non-ferrous metal mine on the Black Rice Wasteland. Up to this point, New Flyer, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce, and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had invested a total of 700,000 gold coins in this project. And this didn't include the 500,000 gold coins he paid to Patriarch Valar to purchase the ore vein. Because the non-ferrous metal smelting factory was invested solely by New Flyer, just in this project alone, New Flyer had invested over 500,000 gold coins. And this was just the initial investment. To truly start mining the mine and the non-ferrous metal smelting factory, they still needed to invest a large amount of money. So even if New Flyer was becoming bigger and bigger, earning more and more profits, the large amount of money invested in this project made Seabass, who was the financial manager, couldn't help knitting his brows each time. If it was any other investment, Seabass wouldn't have any opinions. But when it came to investing in this non-ferrous metal mine, because Seabass didn't understand the future prospects of non-ferrous metals, he couldn't predict how much profit there would be in the future. So he would always remind Sue to invest carefully. Of course, Seabass was only reminding him. He wouldn't really have any opinions or questions about this. Sue had already used countless correct decisions to prove his outstanding vision. Now even Heinz wouldn't question any of Sue's decisions, so the other people in the company didn't have the right to do so. Not to mention that according to last month's financial report, although New Flyer's profits in terms of household magic machines didn't explode because they didn't release any new products, it still broke 300,000 gold coins. As for the Magic Machine Workshop, because the first batch of 10,000 agricultural magic machines ordered by the Kingdom of Roer was delivered, they earned 640,000 gold coins, earning them a profit of over 400,000 gold coins. Adding in the demand for various production magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom, the New Flyer's production magic machine workshop had earned over 600,000 gold coins last month. If the profits from the steel mill, tire factory, and plastic processing factory were also included, the total profit of New Flyer last month was an astonishing one: 54 million gold coins. Although with the expansion of the company, the fixed expenses each month had increased, with the wages and benefits of the employees being over 100,000 gold coins. In the end, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's net profit last month was over 1 million gold coins. With the support of such strong profits, although the investment in this non-ferrous metal vein was huge, it was still within an acceptable range. Seabass' reminder to Sue was actually in hopes that Sue would place more of his attention on the Chamber of Commerce's various industries, stabilizing these existing industries, and further increasing their output and profits, rather than always thinking about opening up new industries. I understand Seabass' worries, so I came here this time to see if you've developed any new things, allowing us to earn a large amount. Sue nodded with a faint smile to the researchers of the Academy of Magic led by Evita before taking some reports from her hands. Since he made that decision because of Steele's advice, Sue began to withdraw himself from the work of the Academy of Magic. He didn't participate in the research process like before, even explaining every step clearly. Rather, he only gave some ideas and let the researchers of the Academy of Magic think about it themselves. Although this method had the opposite effect in the beginning, causing the research progress of the Academy of Magic to greatly decrease, after some time of adaptation, the researchers of the Academy of Magic began to learn how to solve problems based on Sue's ideas. Because of this, they came up with many ideas that even Sue hadn't thought of before. For example, Sue had always been worried about the fact that Banta City didn't have street lamps, but because he couldn't find a suitable solution, he could only put it aside for now. But when he threw this idea to the Academy of Magic, this problem was quickly solved. According to the research of Akali and the others, the street lamps could be powered by long-distance magic transfer technology, ensuring that the high-up street lamps would be lit. The problem that Sue always found troublesome was the long-distance control problem, but after Akali's careful research, they finally solved it with a very ingenious magic array resonance technology. The principle of this technology was something that Akali had accidentally discovered during her research. In that research, Akali had found that if two magic arrays were placed together, there would be a phenomenon of synchronization because of the similarities between the two magic arrays. To put it simply, if there were two magic arrays that were the same, in a situation where both magic arrays were being supplied with magic, if one magic array changed, the other magic array would have the same change. After Akali had deeply researched this characteristic, she found that as long as there was a special setting in the magic array, this characteristic could be extended to more than one magic array. Based on Evita's research report, Akali could even lay down 20 magic arrays that were the same. Then by controlling one magic array, she could make the other 19 magic arrays change the same way. The problem that Sue found troublesome was the long-distance control problem of the street lamp. By laying down a magic array that was exactly the same as the magic arrays of the street lamps and then controlling this magic array, it would affect the magic arrays of all the street lamps and then affect the switching of all the street lamps. According to the research report that Evita handed over, Sue found that the Academy of Magic had already solved all the details of this technology during their last experiment. Seeing the details of the experiment, Sue walked out of the room and looked at the magic lamps scattered all over the courtyard. He turned to Akali and said, "Come, demonstrate it for me." "Understood." Akali mischievously bowed and ran to a tree in the courtyard. She pointed at a round plate and introduced it to Sue. "Sir Chairman, look, this red button is for off and the green one is for on. As for this one that can be twisted, you'll know what it's used for in a while." Sue couldn't help rolling his eyes. This Akali, she still wanted to keep him in suspense at this time. "All right, let me see it first." "All right," Akali replied in a clear voice. She reached out a finger to press the green button and the magic lamps scattered all over the courtyard lit up at the same time. These magic lamps were carefully chosen by Akali and the others. Not only did each magic lamp have a different appearance, the light they released was also different. Adding in the fact that they were carefully placed, now that they were all lit up together, the courtyard was filled with all sorts of colors and it looked very beautiful. "All right, now you can twist that turntable for me to see the effect. If my guess isn't wrong, this should be used to control the brightness of these magic lamps, right?" Sue said with a smile. Akali looked at Sue. "Sir Chairman, can't you just let me keep you in suspense? Why do you have to expose it?" Although she said this, Akali still obediently pressed the button. The light of the magic lamp in the yard became weaker as she twisted it. It was very clear that when arranging these magic lamps, Akali and the others had used the magic power gradient technology to control the intensity of these magic lamps. After letting Akali twist it 2 times and watching the magic lamps turn from strong to weak and from weak to strong, Sue had Akali press the red button to turn off these magic lamps. When the magic lamps were extinguished, Akali immediately jumped in front of Sue and asked with a smile, "Sir Chairman, how is it? Our research this time is very powerful, right?" It is indeed very powerful. I never thought that you would be able to obtain such a large research result." Sue nodded and couldn't hide his praise. Receiving Sue's approval, Akali's smile blossomed like a flower. She turned around to look at Bella, Cecilia, and the others who had been researching with her. Then she rubbed her hands and smiled at Sue before asking, then, "Sir Chairman, what do you think? Is this research enough to give us a bonus?" "Of course it's enough." Sue nodded with a faint smile. "If such a great invention isn't enough to give you a bonus, then I think that in the future, there won't be many research results in the Academy of Magic that are worthy of a bonus." Akali and the others were originally celebrating because Sue had agreed to give them a bonus, but after hearing his words, they were all stunned. After a while, Akali scratched her head and carefully asked Sui, "Sir Chairman, your evaluation of this. Is that high?" "Yes." Sui nodded with a serious expression. "Akali, perhaps you still don't know how important your research is, but I'm very clear that this is a very outstanding invention. It is definitely worthy of being described as great." Akali hesitated a bit and resisted the urge to reach out her hand to touch Suyi's forehead. It was only a small discovery and the colleagues in the research institute didn't treat it as anything. Why would Sir Chairman give such a ridiculous evaluation? Sir Chairman wouldn't have a fever, right? Chapter 293. When it came to March, the cold of winter gradually left Banta City. In the wilderness outside the city, one could see many greenery coming out of the ground. The wind that blew on one's face didn't feel a bone-chilling chill, but rather under the sun, there was a trace of warmth. Sui looked at Koror village, not far to the left, and pointed into the distance. He drew a circle in the air before finally pointing at the sandy river flowing on the horizon. "Cantona, there's no need to care about the fruit forest here. How it was done before, it'll be the same in the future. But if there aren't any fruit trees in this area, you can plant fruit trees everywhere. This will be the fruit production base of Banta City in the future, so it's best if there aren't any other factors. Also, if possible, try to plant the same kind of fruit together. That way, not only will it be easier to plant and harvest, it will also be easier to create a brand." Sui said this while Cantona kept nodding. He even took out a small notebook from his chest to keep taking note. Seeing the crooked words Cantona wrote on the paper, Sui couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. This Cantona was after all a normal farmer. He hadn't received any formal education since he was young. He had only learned how to read and write after establishing the Cantona Chamber of Commerce last year, so of course his words were ugly. But Sui appreciated his attitude very much. Cantona had good business vision and a flexible mind. At the same time, he was already over 30 and still had this kind of desire to learn, which was quite rare. He couldn't stand out before because he didn't have a chance. But since he obtained a small magic harvester from the Farmer Support Plan from New Flyer, he seized this chance. With just a small magic harvester, he established the Cantona Chamber of Commerce in just a single year, taking over all the harvesting business in Banta City and the surrounding cities. During last year's fall harvest, just by harvesting the farmland in Banta City and the surrounding cities, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce had earned over 5,000 gold coins. With this sum of money, he even came up with the extremely advanced idea of renting a large piece of farmland for himself. When Sui heard him mention this idea to him, he almost thought that he had also transmigrated from Earth. Out of his admiration for Cantona, Sui immediately expressed his support for Cantona's idea. After discussing this project with him, he even used this opportunity to propose to Count Samo to develop Banta City's agricultural industry. According to Sui and Cantona's plan, when Cantona rented the farmland of Koror village, Cambia village, and Mexilin village from the city lord's manor, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce would plant basic crops in Cambia village and Mexilin village, like rice and wheat. All suitable farmlands in Koror village would be planted with fruit trees. As for what New Flyer had to do, it was to locate the first canned fruit factory in Koror village. This way they could combine production and processing, greatly reducing the cost of both sides. Whether it was for New Flyer or the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, this was a very advantageous cooperation. Other than New Flyer and the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, there were also the villagers of these three villages that benefited from this cooperation. According to the agreement between Sui and Cantona, of the villagers of these three villages, as long as they didn't work for the other companies in Banta City, a portion of them would work for the Cantona Chamber of Commerce as agricultural workers. The other portion would work for the canned fruit factory in New Flyer as normal workers. There were close to 2,000 villagers in these 3 villages. Other than the old, weak, women, and children, as well as the people working for the large companies in the city, there were still around 600 people who could work normally. The 300 young and strong ones were all taken by the Cantona Chamber of Commerce because even with the help of the small agricultural magic machines, farming still required a lot of physical strength. Moreover, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce had contracted the farmland of these 3 villages. If they wanted to complete the grain quota that Count Samo gave them each year, they would have to work even harder and the weaker people wouldn't be able to take it. Other than that, around 300 people would work for the canned fruit factory. The work in the canned fruit factory was relatively easy. They only needed to cook the canned food, fill it, and package it, so even those with weaker bodies could finish it. Actually, Banta City was currently recruiting workers, so if these 600 people were willing to work in the city, they could definitely find suitable jobs. But the farmers around Banta City were deeply influenced by the traditional ideas of the signs, so they weren't willing to leave their villages, so they would rather stay in their villages. Now that the New Flyer and the Cantona Chamber of Commerce were working together to open a large-scale farm and a canned fruit factory, the furthest they could work in was a neighboring village, so of course these people were very happy to join. Moreover, the Cantona Chamber of Commerce had promised the workers that their minimum wage would be over 7 gold coins a month. This was almost equal to what they earned from farming in a year. As for the workers in the canned fruit factory, although their monthly wage was a bit lower, Sui represented the New Flyer to say that the minimum wage for the workers in the canned fruit factory wouldn't be less than 5 gold coins a month. Even if they wanted to hire someone to watch the gate, they would have a wage of 4 gold coins a month. Even if Cantona was from Cambia village, there were still people who doubted his promises, so the work in these 3 villages wasn't smooth. But once the New Flyer joined, the attitudes of the villagers in these 3 villages changed. Although the New Flyer had been established for less than 2 years, in the hearts of the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities, their fame had already surpassed many of the old companies. Moreover, the things that the New Flyer did were reported in the Banta Times and many other newspapers. Even if they didn't read the newspapers, there would be people who read the newspapers who told them. Adding in the fact that there were all kinds of advertisements for the New Flyer's magic machines in Banta City, it was hard for people not to know about the New Flyer. Compared to the Cantona Chamber of Commerce, the New Flyer's fame and reputation made the villagers feel much more assured. Not to mention that Sui had come with the people of the City Lord Manor, obtaining the personal approval of the Lord City Lord. In the eyes of the villagers, the Lord City Lord was simply a god. As long as the Lord City Lord approved something, the villagers didn't have any thoughts of resisting. So after Sui represented the New Flyer to have a simple discussion with the villagers of the 3 villages, he immediately obtained their approval. This allowed this project to proceed smoothly. It was because of this that Cantona respected Sui even more. As long as it was related to this project, he would listen to everything he said. Seeing that Cantona had taken note of everything he said, Sui nodded and walked with him to the distant Koror village. Before they even entered the village, they could smell a fragrance that came with the wind. Sui took a deep breath and felt the refreshing smell of the fragrance, revealing a look of nostalgia. It really has been a long time since I've smelled this smell. The last time I ate canned fruit made from rock sugar was at least 20 years ago. 20 years ago? Cantona on the side asked in a confused voice. Chairman Su, you weren't even 10 years old 20 years ago, but there were already people who knew how to make canned fruit? Why have I never heard of it before? Such a good thing, it should have been spread a long time ago. Sui suddenly realized that when he smelled the fragrance of the cooked fruit, he had accidentally let it slip. I ate it in my hometown, there was only an old grandpa who knew how to make it. I thought it was delicious back then, so I learned how to make it from him. Sui vaguely explained. Oh! Cantona didn't doubt it, but he said in a regretful voice, "It would have been good if this method had spread earlier. The fruits of our villages wouldn't have been left to rot in the fields." Sui revealed a faint smile. "Relax. I dare guarantee that not long from now, even if we don't need canned fruit, the fruits in Banta City can be transported to other places in the signs, letting the people of other countries eat Banta City's specialty fruit." How is that possible? Cantona clearly didn't believe it. Not to mention other countries, just transporting it from here to Anvilmar City takes several days. When it's transported, it would have already spoiled. You don't believe me? Sui revealed a mysterious smile. Then let's wait and see. Seeing Sui confidently walking in front, Cantona couldn't help shaking his head. Although he had been in contact with Sui quite a bit during this time, the more he was in contact with Sui, the more Cantona found that he couldn't understand his thoughts and couldn't follow his train of thought. If it was said that Sui had left him with the impression of a young, energetic, and bold chairman of a large company, now in Cantona's eyes, Sui had become more and more unfathomable. If someone else told Cantona that the fruits could be transported to other countries on the continent before they spoiled, Cantona wouldn't have thought that they were speaking nonsense. But when Sui said this, although Cantona didn't believe it at first, when he thought of the miracle the new flyer had created in the past year and the large changes it had brought to Banta City and the surrounding cities, he couldn't help gradually believing it. Since Chairman Su said it could be done, even if it couldn't be done now, it would definitely be done in the future. Thinking of this, Cantona suddenly forcefully patted his head. For a small person like him, why would he need to guess the thoughts of an important person like Chairman Su? Why would he think that much? It was better to follow Chairman Su and work hard to do what he wanted to do. Naturally, he could rely on the large tree that was the new flyer to earn money. Thinking of this, Cantona revealed a grin and quickly moved faster, following Sui in front of him. Chapter 294. After he finished inspecting Koror village, Sui took a horse carriage to the Ireland Chamber of Commerce in the Santun Industrial District. Compared to last year when the new flyer's small company support plan was announced, there were now several dozen small machine parts factories scattered around the Santun Manor. It had gone from 60 at first to over 100 now. Obtaining this kind of growth in less than a year, other than proving that the magic machine industry had taken a step forward, it also proved that this industry had great prospects. Take the Ireland Chamber of Commerce that wanted to start processing components as an example. Last year Freeman and several other villagers proposed this idea to Sui. When they had just established the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, they didn't even have over 200 gold coins in assets. The 3 most important production magic machines for their company were given to them by the new flyer on loan. To many people, this company wasn't qualified to be called a company at all, they were even barely qualified to be called a workshop. However, with this company that couldn't even compare to a workshop, Freeman's group had earned over 5,000 gold coins in less than half a year. Not only had the Ireland Chamber of Commerce paid off their debt for the production magic machines, they had also bought several new production magic machines and even built a beautiful new factory. No matter how one looked at it, they could be considered a proper company. Moreover, because the Ireland Chamber of Commerce was one of the earliest companies to enter the component processing industry, they had the support of Sui. Adding in the hard work of Freeman's group, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce could be considered the leading company in Banta City's component processing industry. Not only did they take over all the component processing business of the new flyer, they also had close cooperation with several other companies in Banta City. Last year, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce earned over 5,000 gold coins in less than half a year, which was already very shocking. In just over 2 months this year, according to what Freeman mentioned to Sui last time, they had already earned over 5,000 gold coins. So whenever one saw Freeman, one would find that he always had a happy smile on his face, looking very carefree. Ha ha, Chairman Su, how could I not be happy? Yesterday, we made an order with the Armani Chamber of Commerce for 100,000 needles. Freeman chuckled as he said to Sui, I won't hide it from you. Just based on this order, we'll be able to earn several hundred gold coins. Then I really must congratulate you. Sui nodded with a faint smile. Chairman Su, don't laugh at me. I know that the reason why the Armani Chamber of Commerce gave this order to us was because you mentioned the name of our Ireland Chamber of Commerce to the Armani Chamber of Commerce's chairman Vincent, right? Freeman asked seriously. Sui smiled. Who told you that? Freeman scratched his head. It was Kovac who told me. He said that at a banquet in the city, he saw you talking to the chairman of the Armani Chamber of Commerce. Then 2 days later, the Armani Chamber of Commerce took the initiative to send someone to place an order with us, so it must be because you recommended us to the Armani Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, they might not have chosen us. Banquet? Sui recalled and thought that Freeman should be talking about the banquet held by the city lord 5 days ago to celebrate the end of winter and the arrival of spring. During that banquet, he had indeed conversed with President Vincent. However, the content of their conversation was mainly about the large batch of materials that were about to be sent to the Black Rice Wasteland. As for the name Ireland Chamber of Commerce, it was indeed mentioned by President Vincent when he asked him which Chamber of Commerce was the best in component processing. If it was like this, then the Ireland Chamber of Commerce receiving this order was indeed mainly because of Sui's recommendation. But Sui naturally didn't come here to ask for credit. An order with a total price of less than 10,000 gold coins might be a very important order for the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, but he obviously didn't care about it right now. So Sui just patted Freeman's shoulder and said with a smile, Don't mind it. If it wasn't for the fact that your company's components were good enough, I wouldn't have recommended you to Chairman Vincent, right? Seeing that Freeman wanted to express his thanks, Sui quickly changed the topic. He looked around and asked, Where is the thing I want? Freeman's words of thanks were blocked by Sui. After being stunned for a bit, he immediately brought Sui to a magic machine that was working in the corner of their factory. There were over several hundred small iron bottle caps beside this magic machine, which were the most important components needed to make canned fruit. Sui picked one up to look at and found that the bottle cap was very smooth, without any flaws at all. When he touched it with his finger, he could feel the smooth thread. After taking a glass bottle from Freeman's hand, Sui closed the bottle cap. With a soft twist, the bottle cap closed with the glass bottle, not revealing anything at all. Sui gave a satisfied nod. He tried a few more bottle caps and found that these bottle caps all perfectly closed the glass bottle. Very good, it seems like you've already found the trick. These bottle caps are all very suitable. Sui revealed a smile of praise to Freeman. Seeing Sui's approval, Freeman immediately revealed a happy smile. When Sui gave them the process of making the canned fruit caps, he only gave them a few blueprints and the corresponding data. He didn't say anything else and didn't send the new flyer technicians to guide them like before, so they could only figure it out by themselves. In the beginning, in order to make a qualified bottle cap, they had experienced countless failures and created countless waste product. Although this pile of bottle caps could meet the requirements, there were more than 10,000 bottle caps that had failed before this pile of bottle caps. But it was like Sui had said to Freeman and Kovac, if a company wanted to develop, they had to have something that they could grasp. If they just relied on the new flyer to guide them, it wouldn't help the Ireland Chamber of Commerce grow at all. Freeman and Kovac were very clear on this, so they didn't raise any objections and chose to experiment by themselves. Although more than 10,000 bottle caps had failed, causing a loss of nearly 1,000 gold coins, they still persevered. The results of their persistence were clear. After this technical breakthrough, that Sue mentioned, Freeman found that the Ireland Chamber of Commerce's workers had greatly improved their skills in operating the magic machines. For example, the young man who was operating the magic machine in front of him. When he first joined the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, he didn't even know what a magic machine was, but now he had become an excellent worker operating a magic machine. Even Sue's evaluation of him was that he wasn't that different from the dwarves of the New Flyers Magic Machine Workshop. It had to be known that although the dwarves had short hands and thick fingers, they were very talented in this aspect. Being able to compare to the dwarves in this aspect was already the highest praise. Other than this, the most important thing was that in these failed experiments, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce had found many problems that they hadn't found before. They had many new insights and understanding of component processing. Freeman was very confident that if he had to pick the one with the strongest technology among the 100 small and large component processing companies in the Santon Industrial District, it would definitely be their Ireland Chamber of Commerce. Chairman Sue, since you're satisfied with the bottle caps we've made, can we officially begin production? How many do you want for the first batch? Seeing Sue use the vernier caliper, he personally made to measure the diameter of the bottle caps and the thickness of the edges, Freeman asked this. Don't be in a rush. Sue shook his head. The canned fruit factory still needs at least 2 months before it starts production. At that time, I'll determine the type and quantity of the first batch of canned fruit. It's a good thing that you've received a large order from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, so you just need to make good use of the time. Freeman nodded and agreed in a straightforward manner. After bringing Sue around the factory, Sue decided to leave. After sending Sue out of the factory, Freeman suddenly revealed an awkward expression. He hesitantly opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything. Sue couldn't help smiling. If you have something to say, then just say it. You know that I don't like to beat around the bush. Freeman scratched his head and revealed an awkward smile. It's like this. Chairman Sue, there are many small component processing companies in this industrial area. Although there are benefits to having more, the competition is too fierce. There are many companies that fight to the death for a single order, and there are many companies that choose to directly lower their prices. We don't earn much from processing components, so if the price is lowered like this, no one will be able to earn money in the future. So, have you thought of a way to solve this? Sue asked back. Freeman laughed. It's not that we haven't thought of a way, so we wanted to ask if you had a way. Sue snappily looked at him. You can't think of a way or you're not willing to think of one. What about Kovac? It must be him who came to ask me, so why is it you? He went to Karma City to contact other businesses. Freeman said with a shameless smile. Chairman Sue, you are the chairman of Banta City's Magic Machine Business Union. A small component processing companies came from your New Flyers small company support plan. You can't just ignore this, right? Seeing Freeman's pleading expression, Sue gave a sigh and nodded. All right, component processing is also a part of the magic machine industry. I can't ignore this. In the next meeting of the Business Association, I will propose to announce a minimum price for every magic machine and related product. Any chamber of commerce that sells below this price will be defined as malicious competition and will be chased out of the industry. Freeman immediately became happy and cheered. That's great. As long as Chairman Sue says a single word, this problem can be easily solved. That way everyone won't have to kill each other in the future. Sue looked at the happy Freeman and shook his head before saying with a sigh, Don't be happy too early. As long as you're in Banta City, I can still help you solve this problem. But when you leave Banta City and face the entire Lampari Kingdom, even leaving the Lampari Kingdom and facing the entire continent, I won't be able to help you like this. Freeman laughed loudly, casually waving his hand. That's easy. Right now, Chairman Sue, your words are useful in Banta City, so when we face the entire kingdom, your words will definitely be useful in the entire kingdom. When we face the entire continent, your words will definitely be useful in the entire continent. Sui couldn't help smiling. Freeman, you really think highly of me. Chapter 295. Even if it was already March and the winter was over, it was still cold at night. Normally speaking, on this kind of cold night, most people of Banta City would choose to stay at home. They would either curl up in their warm blankets or enjoy the warm breeze from the magic air conditioner. If there wasn't anything special, no one was willing to go out. But tonight, the people of Banta City were different. As soon as the sky turned dark and everyone finished their dinner, they all left their warm homes. Facing the cold breeze, they headed to the city square in the center of Banta City. As soon as the sky turned dark, the roads to the city square were filled with people, not even a drop of water could pass through. When the weather wasn't cold, although there would be quite a few Banta City citizens who would come to the city square for a walk at dusk, there had never been this many people that came at once. The reason why this happened was because a week ago, the Banta Times had used a large headline on the front page to say that in a week's time, Banta City's municipal square would welcome a new look. The entire square would be completely different. The city lord Satsuma Count had specially used the Banta Times to express his views, saying that this new city square would definitely open everyone's eyes and shock them. Count Sean was the city lord of Banta City, so it was very good for him to make this kind of exaggerated statement. So after seeing the report in the Banta Times, it immediately whetted the appetites of everyone in Banta City. What would this new city square look like? It even made the city lord use the word unbelievable. After this report, starting the next day, every day the Banta Times would have a large number on the front page. The first day was 6, the second day was 5, and the third day was 4, so everyone knew that the Banta Times was counting down. As the date approached, people's expectations of the new city square became stronger. Although before the Banta Times made this report, there were people who found that the city lord manor had sealed off the city square and had placed curtains around it, making it impossible for people to see what was inside. Although they could infer from the clanking sounds that there should be some kind of construction going on inside, the more it was done, the more it aroused everyone's curiosity. When the mystery was about to be revealed, everyone's curiosity had reached its peak. Many people even waited outside the sealed municipal square without having dinner so that they could see the new municipal square as soon as possible. He didn't know if the city lord's mansion did it on purpose, but today was the only 2 days of the month when there was no moon. Although it was a sunny day and countless stars could be seen in the sky, once night fell, the surroundings of the municipal square would inevitably fall into darkness. Fortunately, many smart residents had already anticipated this situation and brought out the magic lamps from their homes. When the sky turned dark, countless lights of different colors lit up outside the city square. If one were to look down from the sky, they would see a dense crowd of people crowding the streets near the municipal square. Among the crowd, there were countless colorful halos, which seemed to be reflecting the starry sky above their heads. People gathered together to chat while patiently waiting. Finally, when the Banta Times said it was 8 at night, there was a muffled sound that came from the sealed city square. Then there was a firework that flew into the sky and exploded, lighting up the entire night sky. Just as everyone stopped chatting because of this momentary daze, the whole place suddenly fell into silence. Suddenly, a deep male voice rang out. "Citizens of Banta City, welcome to the new Banta City Square." As soon as he finished speaking, the curtains that had been tightly surrounding the entire city square suddenly slid down. Then, they were pulled aside by an unknown force. The Banta City Square that hadn't been seen in front of people for close to a month finally revealed its appearance. The crowd instantly filled the square, wanting to see what the new city square looked like as soon as possible. However, with the light of the magic lamps in their hands and the starlight above them, they couldn't see anything that was more than 10 meters away from them. How could they see the entire square with all these people here? Only those with better eyesight could see that there seemed to be many tall pillars erected around the city square with the help of the faint light. When everyone was feeling a bit anxious, there was another muffled sound that came from the center of the city square as another firework flew into the sky. After attracting everyone's attention, there was a bright light that came from the center of the city square. There was a high platform that had been built at an unknown time that was completely lit up. On the high platform, Count Samo was bathed in the light with a faint smile on his face. He looked at the dense crowd around him and raised his hands to signal them. When the crowd calmed down, Count Samo said in a clear voice, "Citizens of Banta City, I know that you have been waiting for this night for a long time, so I won't waste your time. I just want to remind you that everything you see tonight will be the most unforgettable scene in your life." It was fine if he didn't say this, but once he said this, the people under the stage couldn't hold back their curiosity. There were even some people who didn't care about being disrespectful to the Lord City Lord as they loudly shouted, "Lord City Lord, just what does it look like? Why don't you show us?" Hearing this shout, the people under the stage all agreed. The sound waves surged and spread far away from the city square. At this time, it was impossible for Banta City to be peaceful. Count Samo raised his hand again and suppressed the noise of the crowd before turning around to give a nod. A girl with a slender figure and a round face, who looked a bit cute and beautiful under the light, came forward and handed a small box in her hand to Count Samo. Count Samo took the box and seemed to ask for the opinion of the girl. Then he turned around and looked at the people under the stage. He raised the box in his hand and said in a loud voice, "Now, it's time to witness a miracle." After saying this, Count Samo reached out a finger to tap the box a few times. In the blink of an eye, dozens of incomparably bright lights suddenly lit up in the sky around the municipal square. It was as if dozens of moons had suddenly appeared above their heads, instantly illuminating the entire municipal square as if it was daytime. The sudden change in light and darkness caused everyone to involuntarily close their eyes. However, when they opened their eyes again, they were shocked to find that the city square no longer seemed to exist at night. Everywhere was as bright as day. This kind of brightness came entirely from the large magic lamps hanging from the top of the dozens of iron pillars erected around the square. Beside these flowers and trees, there were also small pillars that had small magic lamps hanging from them. These magic lamps didn't emit the same white light as the large magic lamps above their head. Instead, they emitted a variety of colors. It looked a bit messy, but when the light shone on the flowers and trees, it complemented each other and made the place even more beautiful. That wasn't all. When everyone's eyes were focused on the city square, they found that there was a pool that had been dug out and the platform was right in the middle. With the help of the light above their heads, everyone could clearly see that there was a statue on the platform. Below the platform, there were rows of magic lamps that emitted the same colorful light beside the pool. The light of the magic lamps of various colors just happened to converge on the statue, making it hard not to notice the statue. But when they saw the statue clearly, everyone was confused again. Because this statue wasn't a statue of any person that they imagined. It was a strange-looking horse that was completely white with horns on its forehead and a pair of long wings on its back. What is this thing? Just when everyone was confused, countless thin water pillars suddenly sprayed out from the pool below the high platform. After crossing back and forth in the air, they suddenly gathered together and formed the shape of a flower, which then slowly bloomed. Under the colorful magic lamps around them, this flower that was completely made of water reflected a beautiful light, looking incomparably magnificent and beautiful. The people in the square had never seen such a dreamlike performance before. They were already deeply shocked by the sudden bright light in the square. Now, as they watched the water flow constantly changing into various patterns, they were all mesmerized for a moment. In a room on the third floor of the city lord's manor that wasn't far from the city square, Sui looked away from the bright city square and turned to Hannes beside him as he said with a sigh, "It seems like the Lord City Lord isn't good at this kind of performance." This was a very good chance to close the distance between him and the citizens, letting the people of Banta City recognize him, but he wasn't willing to listen to my suggestion to give a speech. It's such a pity, wasting such a good chance. Hannes turned to look at Sui and couldn't help saying with a smile, "What kind of person do you think Lord Count is? Does he need to perform in front of these normal citizens? These citizens can't affect him at all." Chapter 296. Sui thought about it and gave up the idea of discussing this with Hannes. Science society was different from Earth. On Earth, politicians needed to show off to gain the support of the people, but in Signs, a large noble like Count Samo didn't need to show off in front of normal citizens. It was like Hannes said, these citizens couldn't affect Count Samo at all because they couldn't decide who the city lord belonged to, they couldn't decide Samo Count's title, and they couldn't affect the family behind Samo Count at all. Alright, let's not talk about this. Hannes, after seeing this new city square, what are your thoughts? Sui changed his tone and asked. Thoughts? That's just too shocking. Hannes was not stingy with his praise. Hannes gave a compliment. Sui, why didn't I notice before that you were actually an expert in city planning? This new city square is just too creative. I dare say that in all of Signs, you won't be able to find a place like this in another city. Even putting those beautiful fountains aside, just the magic lamps that can illuminate the entire square are enough to shock people. Sui revealed a faint smile. He really wanted to tell Hannes that he really was ignorant. Such a small and ordinary city square can actually make you feel shocked. If you go to Earth and see all kinds of gorgeous scenes in those big cities, won't you faint from shock? Of course, he was also very clear that although Banta City's new city square seemed very simple to him, for all of Signs, it was a very shocking new thing. After Hannes praised for a while, he suddenly changed the topic. This new city square is indeed very, very good, but is there a need for you to specially bring me here from Anvilmar City? Of course, you are the boss behind Anvilmar City's newspaper industry. If I didn't bring you here, how could I show the beauty of Banta City's new city square to the kingdom's people? Sui said with a smile. Hannes slightly knit his brows, actually. I'm very curious. Sui, why are you so enthusiastic about this thing? You are only the chairman of a normal company, you aren't Banta City's city lord. Spending so much effort to do this and advertising it, just what is it for? It's very simple. Doing this kind of thing is to raise Banta City's fame, letting everyone know that Banta City isn't the small and backward city that everyone thinks it is, rather it is a brand new city that makes people take notice of it and is filled with vitality. If Banta City becomes famous, it will be of great help to our Banta City companies. After saying this, Sui pointed at the city square in the distance and said, Do you see the unicorn in the center of the square? It will be the name card of Banta City in the future. When introducing Banta City to others, it will be the symbol of Banta City. Hannes looked in the direction Sui was pointing and muttered, That's called a unicorn? I thought it was a deformed horse. Sui couldn't help rolling his eyes. He thought that this world had dwarves, elves, beastmen, and even dwarves and dragons, so it was natural that there would be a divine beast like the unicorn that appeared in the Western fantasy world. But when Count Samo asked about the city's statue, Sui proposed the unicorn, but he received strange looks from everyone. When he drew the unicorn, whether it was Samo Count, Steel, or even the elves in the factory said that they had never seen this creature before. Sui could only helplessly accept the fact that this world didn't have unicorns, but Samo Count liked the unicorn he drew very much. After finding another artist to draw it, they finally decided that this statue would represent Banta City. The meaning of this unicorn was very deep. First, the unicorn was a horse, and the horse represented speed and endurance. It meant that Banta City was in a fast-developing stage, and it would continue like this. Next, there was a long horn on the unicorn's head. It meant that no matter what kind of difficulties they met, Banta City would break through them and continue moving forward. Finally, there was a pair of wings, which meant that Banta City would soar into the sky. When Sui told Samo Count about this, he received deep approval from Samo Count. Samo Count even specially wrote a brief history of Banta City. Not only did it describe Banta City's history, it also described Banta City's current state. He planned to use this book to show everyone the appearance of Banta City. This could be considered a part of the Banta City image construction project that Sui proposed. Other than that, rebuilding the city square could also be considered a part of this project. Especially receiving Hannes and having him use the newspapers to advertise Banta City was also part of this project. In short, it was to create a star city in the Lampari Kingdom, letting everyone in the Lampari Kingdom know and understand Banta City. And your true goal? Hannes asked. Hannes asked, "You said that doing this would help your Banta City's companies, but I can't see how it would help. If you want to increase the fame of your new flyer and let your company develop a bit faster, I can understand, and there are many ways to help you achieve this. But if you're talking about building the image of Banta City, I'll say it again, this is Samo Count's matter, and not something a normal merchant like you should consider." Sui couldn't help giving a sigh. Different societies had different understandings. For Sui, who had transmigrated from Earth, building the image of a city was a natural matter. But for the people of the signs, a city was just a city with walls. It was a place where more people lived, and there wasn't anything special about it. To have them understand the importance of a city's image was like playing the lute to a cow. This was something that even Hannes, who came from the Lampari Kingdom's largest city, Anvilmar City, was the same. After thinking about it, Sui found that explaining the meaning behind this to Hannes and how it would help the new flyer was a very troublesome matter, so he was too lazy to explain. He just wanted him to advertise according to his wishes and didn't care about the reason. As for the benefits this project would bring to Banta City and the large companies in Banta City, Hannes didn't know right now, but he would naturally see it in the future. After discussing how to advertise with Hannes, Sui first had Hannes see Samo Count, who had returned to the City Lord's Manor, while he went to a side hall in the City Lord's Manor. When he came to the door, Sui heard Akali's unique laughter that came through the door. "Ha ha, you really should have seen it on stage." When the magic lamps in the square lit up at the same time, everyone under the stage closed their eyes. When they opened their eyes, almost everyone had their mouths wide open in shock. Their expressions were so funny. Is that so? Why do I feel that those people's mouths weren't as wide open as yours? Sui opened the door with a smile as he walked in. There were 7 researchers from the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, including Akali, in the small side hall. They were the technical support staff for the magic lamps in the Banta City Municipal Square project. They were mainly responsible for solving the problem of lighting the municipal square. The large magic lamps on the 20 magic lamps around the municipal square, as well as the small lights around the trees, and the lights by the pool were all designed by them. The main designer was Akali. Seeing Sui come in, Akali was about to excitedly charge over, but when she heard what Sui said, she immediately stopped and said with a soft snort, "Sir Chairman, I just finished a very meaningful job. Can't you allow me to be happy?" "Of course you can," Sui said with a smile. "Not only can you be happy, you can be happy many times. Because I want to announce a piece of good news to all of you. Because of the success of the Municipal Square project, especially the magic lamps in the square and the surrounding magic lamps, I've decided to represent the new flyer to give you an extra reward." Hearing the word, extra reward, including a collie, all the researchers looked at Sue with expectant look. Sue deliberately paused before giving a cough and raising his voice to say, other than a collie, the other 6 researchers will be given a 3rd-level reward. According to the standard, each person will receive 100 gold coins. Great! Great! Ah ha ha ha! As soon as Sue's voice fell, everyone broke out in a deafening cheer. A collie excitedly rushed over and hugged Sue's arm while shaking it. She asked, "Sir Chairman, what about my reward? You said last time that the magic resonance technology one researched was a great discovery, and I worked so hard this time. Look at me, I've lost weight. Since that's the case, my reward can't be less than theirs, right?" Sue revealed a faint smile and said with a nod, "Of course. You're the inventor of this technology, and you're also the leader of the research team. Your reward will, of course, be higher than the others." "Then I should be a 2nd-level reward? Let me think. The 2nd-level reward is… Don't think about it. Your reward is not a 2nd-level reward, but a 1st-level reward. The reward is 500 gold coins." Chapter 297. Hearing the number, 500 gold coins, the other 6 researchers who were cheering were stunned. The side hall fell into a strange silence for a moment. After a while, a collie asked Sue with a slightly trembling voice and an expression of disbelief, Sir President, you just said, I'm a level 1 reward?" "Yes, a level 1 reward, 500 gold coins. You didn't hear wrong." Sue nodded seriously. A collie was in a daze for a moment, then suddenly cheered and jumped up. "Haha, that's great. 500 gold coins. How many new clothes can I buy?" Sue was speechless for a moment. This collie, in the end, was only a young girl in her early 20s. After receiving such a large reward, the first thing she thought of was to buy new clothes. Seeing that the other 6 researchers were looking at a collie with envy, Sue continued, "Don't just be jealous of a collie. I have always been generous with these kinds of technological breakthroughs, and a collie's results are indeed worthy of this reward. If you want to receive such a high reward like her, then do your research in the future and strive to make a technological breakthrough comparable to hers." The other 6 researchers nodded vigorously. Although they were very envious of a collie, they also knew that a collie had played the biggest role this time. It could even be said that this magic resonance technology was mostly developed and applied in practice by a collie alone. Now that they were able to receive a reward of 100 gold coins, it was already a pleasant surprise. Seeing a collie and the other 6 researchers high-fiving and celebrating, Sue couldn't help but laugh. In fact, according to his real thoughts, the magic resonance technology discovered by a collie had a very wide range of applications. Now, using this technology, one could use a small operation box to control all the magic lights in the city square. It could only be considered a very simple application. If this technology continued to be researched, there would be a lot of applications in the future. Just the first thing that Sue could think of now was as many as 3 aspects. Furthermore, as long as he continued his research in the future, he would definitely discover more applications. In Sue's opinion, the reward of only 500 gold coins to a collie was not worth mentioning at all for such a far-reaching and promising technology. If possible, he felt that rewarding a collie with 50,000 gold coins would not be excessive. Of course, the current reward system of the Academy of Magic was set by Evita and approved by Sue, so he obviously couldn't break this rule. What's more, if the reward was only 500 gold coins now, there would be more room for improvement in the future. In the future, the Academy of Magic would develop more and more technologies related to magic machines and would become more and more important. Therefore, the rewards given out would also increase accordingly. When that time came, there might be a situation where some companies on Earth offered a reward of tens of millions for a piece of technology. Thinking of this, Sui turned his head to look at Sanchali, who had been sitting silently in the corner of the side hall. Although he looked a little excited, he was more embarrassed. Seeing Sui look over, Sanchali gave him a seemingly forced smile. Sui thought for a bit and walked over to sit beside him. He patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "What's wrong? You've done such a great job, so why do you still have this expression? Come, tell me honestly, what level of reward do you think you can get this time?" The smile on Sanchali's face became even more forced and awkward. He waved his hand and said, No, I've been doing nothing for more than a year. Now that I can finally help, I'm already very happy. How could I dare to ask for any reward? Sir Chairman, don't blame me for taking such a long time to develop something like this. It's already not bad. Sui stared at Sanchali for a while and asked, "So you've been finding excuses to avoid me because you're ashamed?" Sanchali's face really showed an ashamed expression. He nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "That's right. Every day, I've seen my colleagues in the Research Institute produce all kinds of results and help the company develop all kinds of new products, but I haven't been able to do anything. Although Sir Chairman hasn't said anything, I feel very sorry in my heart. If it weren't for you, I might have starved to death in Anvilmar City. Not only did you save me, you also fulfilled my dreams and let me have my own research lab. I can study the magic I want to study to my heart's content. I really don't know how to repay you. Originally, I thought that as long as I could help you complete the magic array programming technology you mentioned, it would be enough to repay you. But I didn't expect this technology to be so difficult. Are you very surprised?" Sui said with a smile. "To tell you the truth, I originally didn't have any extravagant hopes for the magic array programming technology. It was completely when I saw you for the first time and saw that crystal ball you made that I decided to let you give it a try. I know very well how difficult this technology is, so I never expected you to be able to thoroughly study this technology in a short period of time. This time, you were able to use a part of the magic array delay technology that you've already researched and put it into practice. After those fountains sprayed out water, they still activated the water magic array to change into various patterns. This is already a pleasant surprise for me. So you don't have to feel any pressure, just continue to persevere in your research." The more magnanimous Sui appeared to be, the more ashamed Sanchali's expression became. It was like he said, Sui had not only saved his life, he had also saved his dreams. If not for his persistence in the research of his own original magic, a mage with decent magical talent like him would not have fallen to the point where he was close to begging for food or even starving to death. To him, the dream of magic research was even more important than his life. Now that he had come to New Flyer, Sui had provided him with an environment where he could freely conduct the magic research he liked. It was as if he had been given a new life. "All right. I will definitely work hard." Thinking of this, Sanchali nodded his head vigorously. "Sir President, don't worry, if I can't research it in a year, I will use 10 years. If I can't research it in 10 years, I will use all my time. I will definitely research the magic array programming technology you want before I die. In the future, you don't even need to give me a salary. As long as you give me food to eat and provide me with magic materials, I will dedicate my life to New Flyer." Sui smiled and shook his head. "I said before, you don't have to be so stressed, just focus on your research. Also, through this performance, I suddenly realized that I overlooked a problem. The reason why Akali was able to research the magic array resonance technology so quickly and put it into practice so quickly, other than her talent, was also because she had 6 other researchers helping her. But you were alone from the beginning to the end. So from tomorrow onwards, you can choose a few assistants to work with you in the research. What do you think?" "There's no need for that, right?" Sanchali was stunned. I only need to research this thing, I don't need any assistance. Even His Excellency the Great Mage needs assistance to research magic, why don't you need them? This matter is decided, I'll give you 3 days to think about it, then give the list of assistants you want to Evita, then negotiate with her and the assistants you choose. Once the list is confirmed, then tell me. Seeing Su Yi's unquestionable expression, Sanchali immediately swallowed all his objections and nodded in agreement. Also, my principle is to reward those who contribute. This time, the magic array delay technology you researched had a very good effect in the new city square. Although it wasn't as dazzling as Akali's magic array resonance technology, it was still very important. So I've decided to give you a second-level reward. The amount is 200 gold coins. Su Yi said seriously. Sanchali froze for a moment and wanted to refuse, but after seeing Su Yi's firm gaze, he couldn't open his mouth and could only obediently accept. Alright, keep working hard in the future. Although your performance this time wasn't as good as Akali's, I've always been optimistic about the future of the magic array pre-programming technology. I believe that it will become an extremely important technology in the future and won't be any worse than the magic array resonance technology. Su Yi patted Sanchali's shoulder and comforted him with a few words before bidding farewell to Akali and the others and leaving the side hall. Under the guidance of the servant, he found Samo Count and Hannes talking in a small living room. The two were chatting happily when they saw Su Yi come in. They both stopped and looked over. Su Yi, what reward did you just give to the researchers of the Academy of Magic? Samo Count asked with a smile after Su Yi sat down. We can hear their cheers even from here. The reward must not be small, right? Su Yi smiled. It's not much, just 100 gold coins per person. 100 gold coins per person is not much? Hannes shook his head and sighed. Hannes shook his head with a sigh. Should I say that new flyer is rich, or should I say that Chairman Su is good at squandering money? Su Yi gave a shrug. It doesn't matter what you say. Anyway, I'm very satisfied with their performance this time. Since I'm satisfied, of course I have to give them a satisfying reward. Otherwise, who would be willing to work hard in the future? That's right, but isn't 100 gold coins per person too much? Even the Chamber of Commerce in Unveil City would be able to reward their employees with 10 gold coins each time. Hannes couldn't help but sigh. Hannes couldn't help sighing. That's because your Unveil City companies are too stingy. It's not related to our new flyer. Su Yi gave a soft snort and said in a voice filled with disdain, Let me tell you, not only our new flyer, if you ask around, even the smallest company in Banta City that earns less than 5,000 gold coins a year, as long as their employees make any new technology, they will be given at least 50 gold coins as a reward. That exaggerated? Hannes couldn't help but frown. Hannes couldn't help knitting his brows. Are your Banta City companies crazy? What new technology? I've seen the new technology in the Banta Times. It's at most some small adjustments. What is so strange about that? Does it need to be rewarded that much? Su Yi looked at Hannes and shook his head. So that means, Hannes, after leaving Banta City for a year, you can't keep up with the situation and are starting to fall behind. As for the companies of Unveil City, they are even more behind. Hannes said in an unconvinced voice, What? Could it be that you mean that Unveil City can't compare to Banta City? Su Yi and Samoyed Count looked at each other and revealed smiles at the same time. Su Yi pointed at the small notebook in front of Hannes and said, What do you think? The Lord City Lord wants to build Banta City's image for? Hannes looked at Samoyed Count in a daze, but he found that Samoyed Count also had a faint smile. He didn't have any intention of explaining Su Yi's words at all. After being stunned, Hannes couldn't help praising in his heart. If Samoyed Count's intention was to make Banta City surpass Unveil City to become the Lampari Kingdom's #1 city, this was too ambitious. But looking at Su Yi's smile on the side, Hannes suddenly felt that this idea that seemed impossible, it seemed like it really could be realized. Chapter 298. To improve the image of Banta City. Of course it wasn't something that could be done with words, and it wasn't something that could be done with just advertising. Other than the new city square and the renovation of the banks of the Sandy River, which were the two most eye-catching projects, the new city district that Su Yi had planned for outside Banta City was gradually being built. The first problem to be solved in the new city district was the traffic problem. After deciding on the city renovation plan last year, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had been building various roads in the suburbs of Banta City. After half a year of construction, several main roads had been paved and the Fersen Carriage Company had also opened several public transport routes. From the Fersen Carriage Company's public transport station in Banta City, one could choose to take a horse carriage to many places outside the city. Compared to before when one couldn't use their own horse carriage and could only walk, it was without a doubt much faster. Hannes spent an entire gold coin and an entire morning to make a round trip on all 11 public transport routes in Banta City. After he came back, he was filled with praise for Su Yi. Too convenient. It's so convenient. Hannes still maintained his exaggerated tone out of habit. Hannes still had the same exaggerated tone as before. You only need a few silver coins to take a comfortable horse carriage to wherever you want to go, and it's that fast, it really is too convenient. Su Yi laughed. What? I don't know who told me last time that the idea of a public transport system was very good, but it wasn't practical to actually make it work? Hannes' face turned a bit red as he said with an awkward smile, how could I know that your Banta City would develop this quickly, actually building all these roads in such a short period of time? Moreover, the Fersen Carriage Company really is cooperating because from what I've seen, there aren't that many people taking these horse carriages, so they are definitely making a loss. That's just that everyone isn't used to it yet, Su Yi said. Everyone was used to being poor before and most of them didn't even have a single gold coin, so of course they were a bit resistant to spending several silver coins to take a horse carriage. But the income of the people of Banta City is much higher compared to before. When they understand that time is more precious than money, I dare guarantee that there will be so many people taking the horse carriages that you won't be able to squeeze in. When that time comes, if you want to take the public transport, you'll have to use all your strength. How is it that exaggerated? Hannes couldn't help refuting. But thinking about the situation he had seen in Banta City over the past few days, he found that this wasn't impossible. Banta City's population was quickly increasing and people's income was much higher compared to last time he investigated. If this continued, perhaps everyone's willing to spend money to take the horse carriages. When that time comes, there might really be crowded places. This thing is not bad. When I go back, I'll definitely write in the newspaper that Unveil City should also build a public transport system. Hannes said after thinking for a bit. With this, when we go out to play in the future, we don't have to use our own carriage. Su Yi looked at him and coldly said, You think that Unveil City can be built? Why not? Hannes suddenly stopped. He suddenly thought that Su Yi's question wasn't wrong at all. Unveil City. Could they really build a public transport system? The reason why Banta City could be built, other than the support of the city lord Count Samo, it was also because there were many roads built outside Banta City. Horse carriages could easily pass through these roads. Not only were they fast, they were also stable. As for Unveil City, even the roads in the city were made of limestone. They weren't wide and they weren't as smooth as the roads, so it was much worse than Banta City. Other than that, the most important factor in building a public transport system was whether it could be maintained after it was built. Samo Count and Su Yi were confident in Banta City's public transport system because the income of everyone in Banta City had greatly increased. Even normal citizens could afford to spend several silver coins per trip. Although there were many large nobles and merchants in Anvil City, and there were many people who could afford to ride the horse carriages, for these large nobles and merchants they had plenty of money, so why would they ride in the same horse carriage as others? Why wouldn't they use their own comfortable horse carriages? As for the citizens who had the most demand for the public transport system, most of them weren't willing to pay for it or even couldn't afford it. To many of the commoners in Anvil City, even if it was just a few silver coins, they still had to make careful calculations. Thinking of this, Hannah suddenly found that when Sui said that Banta City wanted to surpass Anvil City 2 days ago, it wasn't just empty words. At least in terms of the income of the citizens, Banta City had already left Anvil City far behind. You're asking how to increase the income of the citizens? Sui looked at Hannes, who had a serious look of inquiry, and said with a smile, "Aren't you in Banta City right now? If you're asking me, you might as well investigate it yourself. Only through direct observation can you come to the most direct conclusion. I can only give you a hint. If you want to know the reason, go to the villages outside the city to take a look." Hannes nodded. When he wanted to write down Sui's words, he suddenly thought of something. "Actually, rather than running around by myself, I might as well go with you. I'm certain that the benefits of following you will be greater, and I'll have a deeper understanding of the changes in Banta City." Sui spread his hands and said, "Unfortunately, I'm preparing to go out. I won't be in Banta City for some time, so I don't have time to accompany you." Hannes was stunned. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to the Black Rice Wasteland to take care of some problems, and also to the Principality of Constantine. There is a fellow there who must be anxious waiting for me, so if I don't go, I'm afraid he'll come to Banta City. Bring me over," Sui replied. Hannes revealed a lecherous smile as he raised a brow at Sui and asked, "It can't be that you provoked a little girl in the Principality of Constantine and abandoned her, right? Hey, do you want me to tell Steele and have her teach you a lesson?" Sui rolled his eyes at him. "I brought back 2 little girls last time, and they're with Vivian and Steele every day. Do you want to see them?" Hannes revealed a look of surprise as he gave Sui a thumbs up and praised, "I never thought that you were this strong. Not mentioning finding 2 little girls from outside, you actually dared to place them by Steele's side. I really have to admire you." "What nonsense, it's not what you're thinking," Sui snappily reprimanded Hannes. He was too lazy to talk to him about this meaningless matter as he continued, "In short, I'll only be back in half a month this time, so it's impossible for me to wander around Banta City with you. Actually, if you really want someone to accompany you, you can just grab a reporter from the Banta Times. He'll definitely be more familiar than me. I'm just saying, I'm not really planning on having a busy person like you accompany me every day. But..." Hannes suddenly revealed a very strange smile. "Sui, I'll tell you a piece of news that I don't know if it's good or bad." "You don't even know if it's good or bad?" Sui asked in a surprised voice. "It's... Sophia might be here in a few days, again?" Sui was stunned before feeling a headache. When Sophia came to Banta City with Kennard for the first time, she strangely didn't like Sui and raised her brows at him. Although Sui didn't care about her because she was a little girl and Kennard's little sister, he still felt a headache because of this. After Kennard decided to stay at New Flyer as the general manager, Sophia would come over when she had nothing to do. Although she came to see her big brother on the surface, she would take the initiative to look for Sui each time, continuing to raise her brows at him. It annoyed Sui to no end, but he couldn't do a thing. So each time he heard that Sophia was coming, Sui would feel a headache coming on. He couldn't really do anything to this naughty little girl, but he didn't want to be entangled by this little girl. "Alright, it's good that she's here now since I'm about to leave. After she comes and knows that I'm not here, she'll find it boring after a few days and go back," Sui said in a happy voice. I really don't know what's going on with her. Why does she have to cause trouble for me each time? Did I offend her? Hannes looked at Sue with a strange expression on his face. Hey, Sue, do you really think this or are you just pretending? Why would I pretend? Sue was stunned. You actually don't know why Sophia is causing trouble for you? Is your brain made of stone? Hannes asked in disbelief. Sue asked in confusion, What are you trying to say? Hannes stared at Sue seriously for a while, but he couldn't see any pretense from his expression. He couldn't help but cover his face and sigh. I really don't know why Steele likes a guy like you, and I don't understand how she got together with you. You're so slow. Could it be that Steele took the initiative to confess to you? Sue thought for a while and answered, If you want to talk about it, she should be the one who took the initiative. But that doesn't matter, I like her and she likes me, that's enough. Anyway, what are you trying to say? Hannes blinked, looking like he had been defeated by Sue. After a while, Hannes let out a long sigh. Sophia, you really are an idiot. Sue looked at Hannes with a puzzled expression. This guy, what is he trying to say? Chapter 299. The next day, when Sue sat in the carriage heading towards the Black Rice Wasteland, Hannes still did not tell Sue what he truly wanted to say. Sue asked a few times and did not get an answer, so he straightforwardly gave up. He had a lot of things to do and did not plan on wasting time on something that was meaningless to him. Compared to why Hannes had suddenly called Sophia an idiot, he was more concerned about what he had to do in the Black Rice Wasteland. Looking at Chairman Vincent who was sitting in front of him, Sue could not help but ask curiously, Chairman Vincent, why did you suddenly decide to personally make a trip to the Black Rice Wasteland? Chairman Vincent stroked the two tufts of mustache under his nose and smiled as he replied, Our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce sells clothes, so of course I'm going to see if I can sell more clothes in the Black Rice Wasteland. Sue thought for a bit and asked with a frown, You wouldn't have this idea because the Valar tribe requested us to provide them with a large amount of clothes, right? No, to be more accurate, I had this idea a long time ago. Chairman Vincent said. The Beastmen have never had the ability to weave clothes, so they have always worn beast hides. I thought a long time ago that as long as we let them get used to wearing human clothes, then there would be a very wide market. But before this, even if the Beastmen had any resources, they would only get salt, seasonings, and various ironwares from us humans. They have never asked for clothes. So I'm very curious, did the Beastmen suddenly change their temperament and want to learn how to wear human clothes? Sue laughed and waved his hand. Chairman Vincent, I think you're thinking too much. The reason why the Valar tribe requested us to provide them with clothes is because we bought the non-ferrous metal mine beside their tribe and paid them 500,000 gold coins. These beastmen have probably never seen so much gold coins before, so they don't know how to spend it. I think Chief Valar realized that he still had a lot of money left after asking us to buy a lot of necessities for him. That's why he thought of buying clothes. It's not that he's changed his personality. As for the other beastmen, it's impossible for them to have that much money, so it's impossible for them to think about it. It's okay. For things like clothes, once you put them on, it's very hard to bear to take them off. President Vincent smiled confidently. I can guarantee that once these beastmen wear the clothes of our Armani Chamber of Commerce, they won't be able to wear those dirty and tattered animal skins anymore. As for money, now that Chairman Sue has taken a fancy to the Black Rice Wasteland, I feel that the beastmen will become rich like the dwarves sooner or later. You really think highly of me? Sue smiled modestly and then thought of another question. Speaking of the dwarves becoming rich, President Vincent, Canby complained to me a while ago. He said that when he and his dwarven brothers went to your Armani Chamber of Commerce to buy clothes, you didn't have a suitable model for them and could only make custom-made clothes. He even asked me if your Armani Chamber of Commerce discriminated against the dwarves and did this on purpose? President Vincent was stunned before quickly waving his hand and saying, "No, no, no, of course our company wouldn't discriminate against the Dwarven brothers. As for not having a suitable model for them, this was indeed our negligence. But I think that Chairman Su should understand, since the dwarves came to our company to buy clothes before were so few that it was negligible. Moreover, the dwarves' physiques are so special. I can understand. This time, I mention this matter to you because I want to remind you of it. Right now our company has over 1,000 dwarven workers, and there will be more and more in the future. These dwarven workers and their families all buy clothes in Banta City. I've always recommended the Armani Chamber of Commerce to them, but if you don't consider clothes that suit the dwarves' physiques and habits, you'll lose a large group of customers." Sui said. "All right, I'll remember this." President Vincent nodded before saying in an emotional voice, "The current Banta City is changing too quickly. Before, there weren't even 3 dwarves in Banta City, and there wasn't even a single elf. Now that there are dwarves on the streets and elves frequently, the people of Banta City are already making a fuss about them." Sui laughed. "So that's why this world is changing quite quickly. I'll take a trip to the Falling Rain Forest later and talk to the Nightsong tribe's elder. If nothing unexpected happens, you'll see even more elves in Banta City in the future. As for the dwarves, isn't everyone already used to it?" President Vincent looked at Sui and hesitated a bit before saying, "Chairman Su, I wonder. Can you help me with something? Please speak. You're very familiar with the elves now, right? You can even talk to the Elven tribe's elder. Then can you help me with something and tell the elves that our Armani Chamber of Commerce is very sincere in inviting the elves to work for our company as our clothing designers?" President Vincent asked. Sui was a bit surprised. "You want to hire an elf to be your company's clothing designer?" "Yes. Moreover, it's not just one, it's as many as possible." President Vincent nodded before saying, "Other than clothing designers, I also want to hire several elves to be our company's clothing models, to be our company's. It's young Miss Steele being the brand ambassador for your company and the Serene Chamber of Commerce." Sui looked at President Vincent in surprise before suddenly revealing a smile. "President Vincent, can I say that you stole my idea?" President Vincent laughed. "It's fine if you say it like this. Chairman Su, you have such a good idea, if I don't know how to use it, it would be a waste." Sui shook his head with a smile. He thought for a bit and said, "I can ask the elders of the Nightsong tribe for you, but I can't guarantee that they'll agree. Also, you haven't said what conditions you'll give them." "All right, thank you, Chairman Su. As for the conditions..." President Vincent pondered for a bit before saying, "As for clothing designers, our company's best designer has an annual salary of 1,000 gold coins. If the elves are willing to come, as long as they show enough talent in design, then their starting salary will be 500 gold coins. This can be increased in the future. As for clothing models and brand ambassadors, it's not easy to directly decide. It depends on the number of times they need to work and the amount of time they need to work. But I can guarantee that their annual salary won't be less than 300 gold coins." "Good, this condition is not bad. But you forgot the most important condition," Sui reminded. "What condition?" "That is, you have to use the Armani Chamber of Commerce's name to apply for a work permit for them," Sui said. "Compared to salary, the elves care more about obtaining a proper identity to live in our human society. This is no problem. But our company doesn't have any experience in this area, so I'm afraid we'll have to ask Chairman Su for advice," President Vincent said. Sui nodded with a faint smile. "No problem." The caravan carrying a large pile of clothes stopped at the Falling Rain Valley. Sui temporarily said goodbye to President Vincent and had him go to Samara Town to meet up with President Renersa while he entered the Falling Rain Valley. Even though spring had yet to truly arrive, the falling rain valley was still filled with vibrant colors due to the exotic flowers and plants planted by the elves. The entire valley was filled with the sounds of various magical machines and the clanking of metal tools. Coupled with the constant chatter of humans, the entire falling rain valley was filled with vitality. Su-Yi directly walked into the tire processing factory not far from the entrance of the valley. He first looked at the horse carriage tire production line before coming to a corner of the factory. There were elves, dwarves, and humans gathered here. There were a total of 10 people gathered here, and they were currently discussing several tires that were much narrower than horse carriage tires. I suggest that the resin content of the inner tire should be lowered and some softening agent should be added. This will make the inner tire even softer and it will be easier to fill it. The one who was holding the soft resin in his hand was the dwarf craftsman Bordeaux. This time the tire processing factory was designing the new tire according to Su-Yi's request. The Magic Machine Development Workshop was moved over and was mainly responsible for the design of the tire rims. But if we add too much softening agent, I'm worried that once the weather becomes hot, the inner tire will soften. At that time, not to mention using it normally, it might not even be able to maintain its original shape. The one who spoke was a male elf named Ilden. He was the elf who had the best grasp of the resin processing technology out of the 100 elves in the tire processing factory. Of course, he had participated in the development of the new tire this time. This isn't a problem. If you're worried about adding too much, we'll experiment a few more times until we find the perfect ratio. We'll guarantee that the tire can work normally and can withstand high temperatures. The chairman has said before that we shouldn't be afraid of failure. We'd rather experiment a few times, several dozen times, or even several thousand times to guarantee the quality of the finished product. Su-Yi, who happened to be beside them, heard this and immediately clapped his hands. He praised in a loud voice, and Kato's words are good. It's not scary to fail an experiment, what's scary is to fail after making the product. No matter what product you develop, you have to consider all kinds of situations. The more you consider, the lower the chances of problems occurring after the product is sold. Chapter 300. President, you're here. Seeing Su-Yi suddenly appear, everyone who was focused on the discussion immediately greeted Su-Yi respectfully. Su-Yi waved his hand and stopped Enkto from moving the seat. He picked up a tire that had already been formed and placed it on the ground, pressing down on it. Su-Yi nodded with satisfaction when he felt the feedback from the tire that was less than his waist and less than 5 centimeters wide. Not bad, it looks like the whole thing has taken shape. Now you just need to deal with some details and this tire will be considered a success. Hearing Su-Yi's approval, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Bordeaux smiled. Only then did he have the time to ask, "President, did you come here specifically to see this?" "No. This thing has gathered the best research and development elites of our Chamber of Commerce. I don't have anything to worry about, I just came here to take a look." Su-Yi shook his head and suddenly asked Ilden, if other Chamber of Commerce offered you a salary of 300 gold coins a year, would you be willing to go? Ilden was stunned. 300 gold coins a year. That's less than 20 gold coins a month. It's not much more than what I get here. I'm doing well here, why would I go? Then what if it's 500 gold coins? That's a lot more than what you get here. Su-Yi asked again. Ilden still shook his head. No, even if you give me 1,000 gold coins, I still won't go. I'm very comfortable in New Flyer. Whether it's the humans or the dwarves, I get along very well with them. I don't want to go to a new environment to adapt. Seeing Ilden's firm answer, Su-Yi couldn't help but sigh. It looks like you elves really don't like to easily change your environment. Although I'm happy from the standpoint of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's chairman, I'm afraid Elder Illugia won't be happy. Ilden slightly frowned. President, you suddenly mentioned this. Did something happen? Yes, because there is another Chamber of Commerce that wants to hire elves to work for their Chamber of Commerce. They are offering a salary of 300 or even 500 gold coins a year. Before I ask Elder Elucia, I want to ask for your opinion first, Sui said. But judging from your attitude, I'm afraid the other elves here aren't willing to go either? Ilden nodded affirmatively. Yes. Then do you think Elder Elucia will be tempted by this proposal? Sui asked again. This. Ilden thought for a moment, then slowly shook his head. I can't guess the elder's thoughts. I think it would be better for Sir President to ask the elders personally. Sui shrugged. Looks like that's the only way. After discussing his requirements for the new tire with everyone, Sui left the tire factory and arrived at the most eye-catching steel mill in the Falling Rain Valley. In this empty space, there were currently 2 new steel furnaces being prepared to be made. As the New Flyers business kept expanding, there was more and more demand for various kinds of steel. Adding in the urgent need for various kinds of steel from the Army headquarters and the large demand for the various kinds of steel from the New Flyers steel mill from the other companies of Banta City, the steel production of this steel mill gradually couldn't satisfy their needs. Chief Saluka and Chief Monto had already proposed to Sui to build a few more steel furnaces to increase the steel production of the steel mill. Although Sui already understood this trend, he didn't rashly agree. After confirming the cooperation with the Army headquarters, he investigated the various companies of Banta City, especially the companies related to magic machines. After making an accurate estimate based on the results of the investigation, he decided to build 2 steel furnaces at once. When these 2 furnaces were put into production, the steel mill would produce close to 200,000 tons of steel a month. According to Sui's estimates, it should be enough to satisfy the needs of the Army headquarters and Banta City for close to 2 years. If they could produce 200,000 tons of steel, just this steel mill alone would earn close to 8 million gold coins a month. Although after taking away the cost, there was still around 1 million gold coins in the end, this was still a terrifying number. It had to be known, even if the income from the various household magic machines of the New Flyer were added together, it was only around 300,000 gold coins a month. Of course, the household magic machine department's profit couldn't compare to this small steel mill. That was because the New Flyer's household magic machine market was mainly in Banta City and the surrounding cities. As the household magic machines entered the Walmart Chamber of Commerce and began selling them in all parts of the Lampari Kingdom, the market would increase by several times and their profits would explode. Not long ago, the Walmart Chamber of Commerce had placed a large order with the household magic machine companies in Banta City for a total of 3 million gold coins. In this order, the New Flyer naturally took the largest share, with a total of 1,800,000 gold coins. As for the remaining 1,200,000 gold coins, it was divided among the other companies. This was because the household magic machines had just been introduced in the Lampari Kingdom, so there were many people who hadn't accepted this new thing yet. According to what Hank Wilson, who came to discuss with Sui last time, the household magic machines had received a very good response in the kingdom. This was why the Walmart Chamber of Commerce had decided to place a large order with a total of 3 million gold coins for the household magic machines. Actually, according to Sui's estimates, an order of 3 million gold coins wasn't enough to satisfy the needs of everyone in the kingdom. If every family in the Lampari Kingdom had the same spending power as the people of Banta City, this order wouldn't just be 3 million gold coins. It wouldn't be strange if it became 30 million gold coins. So if one were to estimate the future, the household magic machine market and the steel market would be very stable in the future, so their profits wouldn't be that different. The reason why New Flyer's steel mill could have such high profits was because the steel market was monopolized by New Flyer. Moreover, a monthly output of 200,000 tons wasn't enough at all when placed on Earth. It could only be considered a very small-scale steel mill. It couldn't compare to any steel mill on Earth. In short, whether it was the household magic machine market or the steel market, Sui thought that they had wide prospects, so he wasn't worried about New Flyer's development. Beside the new furnace, Sui wasn't surprised to see Chief Saluka and Chief Monto. But after seeing them, Sui's first question wasn't related to the factories in the Falling Rain Valley. Chief Saluka, Chief Monto, where are the people you prepared? Chief Saluka and Chief Monto looked at each other before nodding, indicating for Sui to follow them. Following the two chiefs, they left the industrial area of the Falling Rain Valley. After entering the residential area upstream of the Sandy River, not long after, they saw a square that was the size of a soccer field. This square was specially made empty by Sui when he had the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce build the residential area, so it could be considered a place for the dwarves to move around. Now that he was in the square, Sui saw rows of dwarves with their upper bodies bare. They were waving giant wooden sticks in their hands, as they were currently training with each other. Hearing the crisp pa-pa-pa sounds of the wooden sticks striking the upper body muscles of the dwarves, one would know that these dwarves didn't hold back even during their training. Every strike was extremely forceful. Sui was certain that if it was him who went up with his physique, he would be half dead if he took a single hit from that stick. These are the people you've finally decided on? Sui pointed at the dwarves in the square, who were drenched in sweat, and asked the two chiefs. There seems to be a few hundred of them, right? Why are there so many? Chief Saluka and Chief Monto looked at each other again, their expressions a little strange. Seeing the hesitation on their faces, Sui felt very strange. He had interacted with these two dwarven chiefs and many other dwarves for a long time. He knew that the dwarves were very straightforward. Why would they be so hesitant and embarrassed? Chiefs, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't you trust me? Sui couldn't help but ask with a frown. No, 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 of course we trust you. But Chief Saluka scratched his head and said with an embarrassed expression, Chairman, these people were indeed selected by us. I can guarantee that they are the strongest group of dwarven brothers in the Valley of Falling Rain. They definitely meet your requirements, but they don't intend to join the guards. Sui was stunned. They don't intend to join the guards? Then why did you bring me to see them? I say, Chief Saluka, what's going on between you and Chief Monto? Is there something you can't say? If the dwarven brothers really don't want to risk their lives for the humans and don't want to join the guards of the Chamber of Commerce, then I definitely won't force them. You can just tell me directly. No, it's not that the brothers don't want to. On the contrary, when we heard that the chairman wanted to establish the guards of the Chamber of Commerce, the brothers completely exceeded our expectations. They all rushed to sign up to join the guards. Perhaps it was because Patriarch Monto couldn't bear to see Patriarch Saluka's hesitant appearance, so he continued, There are a total of 300 dwarven brothers here. Saluka and I carefully selected them from the 1,000 dwarven brothers who signed up. I can guarantee that every one of them would be the strongest warriors in our dwarven race. Any one of them would have no problem dealing with 10 human soldiers. Ah, sorry, Chairman. I didn't mean to look down on you humans. Sui waved his hand, it's nothing. Humans have the weakest individual combat ability among all the races. This is a public opinion and I don't deny it. Keep talking, since the dwarven brothers are willing. Why did Chief Saluka say that they don't intend to join the guards? This. Chief Monto hesitated for a moment before nodding vigorously as if he had made up his mind. He asked Sui, Chairman, I heard. The 50 elven warriors of the Nightsong tribe also didn't join the guards. Instead, they are working for the Chamber of Commerce as mercenaries? Sui nodded, that's right. Elder Elucia clearly told me that the elven race wouldn't be willing to be used by humans. That's why she sent the 50 elven warriors as a form of cooperation. Those elven warriors aren't my subordinates, and I don't have any specific authority over them. At this point, Su-Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration as he suddenly understood. The two chiefs Actually, you don't want our dwarven brothers to lose to the elves, so you don't want our dwarven brothers to join the guards, right? Chief Saluka and Chief Monto both stared blankly at the same time before bitterly smiling. Chairman, you're too sharp, Chief Saluka said with an awkward expression. That's right. Since the elves aren't joining the guards, then if we dwarves join, I'm afraid that our brothers won't be able to raise their heads in front of those prideful elves. That's why I discussed it with Chief Monto. Should we let our 300 brothers work as mercenaries? But Chairman, don't worry, we won't be like those elves, only saying nice words. You have complete authority over these 300 warriors, so they can do whatever you want. Seeing the nervous smiles on Chief Saluka and Chief Monto's faces, Su-Yi couldn't help but laugh. These dwarves were so straightforward that they were cute. Weren't they just trying to save some face in front of the elves? It wasn't a big deal, so why did they have to look like they had done something wrong? Alright, that's simple. Let me think. How about this? We'll use the names of the two chiefs to create a Falling Rain Valley Dwarven Guard. This Dwarven Guard will only protect our Dwarven brothers in the Falling Rain Valley from outside attacks in name, while also ensuring the safety of the Falling Rain Valley. But in reality they will also be under my command. What do you think of this arrangement? Chief Saluka and Chief Monto looked at each other again before nodding at the same time. Chapter 301. 3 days later, when Su-Yi brought 100 fully armed elven warriors and 200 fully armed dwarven warriors into Samara, the entire town was in an uproar. In the signs, this was already a very powerful armed force. Not to mention a small town like Samara, even a city might not be able to withstand the attack of this force. While they were shocked by the strength of this force, many people were also extremely confused by this scene. In the history of signs, the elves and dwarves had never fought side by side. Not to mention that their leader was actually a human who looked weak and fragile. I'm weak and fragile? Su-Yi looked back at the slender, but still muscular elven warriors. He immediately gave up the idea of comparing himself with the dwarven warriors and honestly admitted this evaluation. Alright, it seems that I am indeed weak. But if these guys knew that I was a 7th-tier magician, I wonder if they would still say that I was weak. Seeing Su-Yi's childish look of dissatisfaction, Chairman Renersa couldn't help but laugh. In front of 100 elven warriors and 200 dwarven warriors, even a 7th-tier magician is not enough. Chairman Renersa looked at the two groups of elven and dwarven warriors in the distance and sighed, not to mention that they are carrying such luxurious equipment. The elven warriors don't have to worry about it. The weapons they use are usually self-made. This is the tradition of the elven race. However, what was going on with the heavy and sturdy armors on those dwarven warriors and the high-grade weapons that they were equipped with? Chairman Su, you can't be trying to tell me that you are the one who equipped them with this equipment, right? Of course. They are here to work for our company, so of course I have to equip them with suitable equipment and weapons. Otherwise, would they be able to fight with their lives on the line? Su-Yi said matter-of-factly. Chairman Renersa couldn't help but shake his head. Even if you want to equip them with weapons and equipment, you don't have to choose such high-quality goods, right? I think a set of equipment on a random dwarf would cost at least 300 gold coins, right? 200 dwarven warriors would be worth more than 60,000 gold coins. Don't you think that's too generous? Su-Yi laughed and suddenly approached Chairman Renersa. He lowered his voice and said with a mysterious expression, "If I told you that they spent less than 50 gold coins, would you believe me?" How is this possible? President Renersa couldn't help but raise his voice. Then, he came to his senses and asked in a low voice, "Is what you said true?" There's no way I would be wrong about the set they're wearing. Just the materials alone are obviously high-quality goods, not to mention the craftsmanship. I'm sure that the one who forged these armors and weapons must be a master blacksmith with superb skills. Speaking up to here, President Renersa suddenly thought of something and revealed a look of realization. Oh right, I forgot that new flyer doesn't lack dwarven craftsmen. But the materials for this set should be worth more than 50 gold coins. It can't be that you had your company's master dwarven craftsman make it for free, right? Sui shook his head with a faint smile. No, you're completely wrong. These armors and weapons were all made by magic machines. From beginning to end, the master dwarven craftsmen were only responsible for making the molds. They didn't need to do anything else. Chairman Renersa's eyes popped out. He wanted to say that this was impossible, but after seeing Su Yi's confident smile, he couldn't say a thing. Thinking about it, he asked Su Yi, Chairman Su, can I give it a try? Please. Renersa called over a human guard from the Renekton Chamber of Commerce and Su Yi called over a dwarf warrior. According to Su Yi's orders, the dwarven warrior stood in front of the human guard. The human guard hesitated a bit before raising the heavy sword in his hand and slashing down at the dwarven warrior's shoulder with all his strength in front of everyone. Ping! A strange sound rang out as the heavy sword in the human guard's hand was sent flying by the armor on the dwarf warrior's shoulder. Everyone's eyes fell onto the dwarf warrior's shoulder, but they found that there was only a white mark left on the armor on his shoulder. It wasn't damaged at all. Everyone looked at the heavy sword in the human guard's hand and they found that there was actually a gap on the blade of the heavy sword. Everyone couldn't help gasping in surprise. Even the dwarf warrior's eyes couldn't help popping out as he revealed a look of disbelief. Although he was confident that with the strength of a normal human, it was impossible for them to hurt him with his armor, he never would have thought that the quality of his armor would be this strong. Not only could it block the human's attack, it could even create a gap on the other side's sword that seemed quite good. All the dwarven warriors couldn't help but touch the armor they were wearing with an incredulous look on their faces. When they set out from the Valley of Falling Rain yesterday, Su-Yi had them change into this set of armor. At that time, they felt that this set of armor was a bit light and was sure to be of poor quality. They even complained that Su-Yi was a bit too stingy this time. Who would have thought that this set of armor would show such a strong quality? It really surprised them. Only Su-Yi wasn't surprised by this result at all. These armors were made from the latest type of alloy steel developed by Patriarch Siluka and the other dwarf. Not only were they extremely resistant to attacks, they were also light and wear-resistant. They were very suitable to be made into armor. Su-Yi originally planned to sell this alloy steel to the military and let them make a new generation of armor. Later, he considered that the guards might recruit some dwarven warriors, so he had Patriarch Siluka and Patriarch Monto forge a batch of armor according to the dwarves' physique. It just so happened that they could use it now. As for the weapons in the hands of these dwarven warriors, it was even easier. Before the military's munitions factory was established, New Flyer had taken on the task of producing 50,000 sets of armor and weapons. Now it was easy to produce a few hundred sets. Try the weapon again, Su-Yi said to Chairman Renersa. Chairman Renersa nodded, but he didn't let the human guard take a heavy blow like the dwarven warrior. Instead, he let him take off his armor and put it on the ground, hinting the dwarven warrior to try using the weapon in his hand to chop down. Even if the weapon in the hands of the dwarven warrior was poor, just by relying on the strength of the dwarven warrior, he could smash an ordinary human guard half to death with a stone. Seeing that the dwarven warrior was about to act, Su-Yi suddenly shouted, "Reduce your strength a bit, or you won't be able to show the power of this axe." The dwarven warrior froze for a moment before nodding to show that he understood. Then he gently raised the axe that was a size bigger than his head and chopped down without using much strength. Pring! After a muffled sound, the dust on the ground dissipated. Everyone looked at the ground and found that the armor that the human guard had just put on the ground had been directly split in half by the giant axe. The blade of the giant axe even directly cut into the ground as deep as a finger. It could be seen how sharp the blade of this giant axe was. Chairman Renersa looked at the smooth cut on the two pieces of armor on the ground. After a while, he suddenly stretched out a finger to Sui and said, "1 set for 100 gold coins, sell me 300 sets." Sui smiled slightly. After fishing for a long time, the fish finally took the bait. #####. The next day, Sui, Chairman Renersa, and Chairman Vincent brought a majestic group of guards to the Valar tribe. They protected more than 30 carriages of various goods. When they arrived at the Valar tribe, from Patriarch Valar to the little wolf children, everyone was stunned. When the 3 companies decided to mine the nearby non-ferrous metal vein, Leader Valar had predicted that the humans would send some guards to guard this place. However, he never thought that the humans would send such a large group of people. Forget about the hundreds of human guards. Why were there 100 elven warriors and 200 dwarven warriors in this guard formation? Since when did the elves and dwarves join hands with the humans? Because he was too shocked, Patriarch Valar didn't even pay attention to what Sui and Chairman Renersa were talking about. He was only stupefied as he handed over the goods with the 2 of them. After all the procedures were completed, Patriarch Valar looked at the small mountain of houses in the middle of the tribe and slowly woke up from his daze. Seeing the wolf children impatiently taking out some small toys from the small mountain and loudly playing with them, Patriarch Valar couldn't help but reveal a smile from the bottom of his heart. The days of the beastmen in the Black Rice Wasteland were very bitter. These children could only barely eat their fill before. Not to mention toys to play with, even having new clothes was an extravagant hope. But this time, the 3 human companies came here and took a fancy to some mysterious non-ferrous metal vein. They actually gave the tribe 500,000 gold coins because of it. This made Patriarch Valar feel like a huge meat pie had fallen from the sky. More importantly, these human merchants were actually true to their words and really gave the tribe so many goods that they urgently needed. Moreover, the price they gave wasn't too high. This made Patriarch Valar feel a trace of trust in them. Although the humans were still untrustworthy in the eyes of the beastmen, Patriarch Valar knew that the humans wanted to mine the non-ferrous metal lode. This meant that the lode was the most important thing to them, so they wouldn't deceive them in other aspects. Thinking of this, Patriarch Valar suddenly thought of a very important question. After thinking for a bit, he asked Sui, "Chairman Su, last time you said that our tribesmen can also work in your company and can also apply for labor cards for them. This will allow them to receive the same treatment as humans in your human kingdom. Is there any progress in this matter?" Seeing the anticipation in Patriarch Valar's eyes, Sui faintly smiled. He thought that this Patriarch Valar was indeed worthy of being a patriarch. He knew that compared to the 500,000 gold coins, solving the long-term problem was more important. "Yes, there's already a lot of progress. I've already confirmed with the kingdom's officials that you beastmen, elves, and dwarves are the same as other races. As long as you're willing to work in our human company, you'll have the right to apply for labor cards," Sui said. Patriarch Valar was overjoyed. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly heard Sui speak again. However, Sui purposely dragged out his words, but this made Patriarch Valar's heart jump to his throat. He looked at Sui with a nervous expression. However, the prerequisite is that the other race that applies for the labor card must not have done anything hostile to humans in the past. Moreover, after working in the human company, they must abide by the rules of the human kingdom and not violate the laws of the human kingdom. Of course. Patriarch Valar nodded. "Chairman Su, you can rest assured. Our Valar tribe is very friendly with humans and has never attacked humans. If you don't believe me, you can ask Chairman Renersa. On the side, Chairman Renersa smiled and nodded. Yes, I can testify. The Valar tribe has always cooperated with us very happily and has never attacked humans. That's good. Sue nodded. Other than these two important conditions, the kingdom's officials also have a restriction. That is, every Beastman family can only have one labor card. Ah! Patriarch Valar looked at Sue in shock. His two large wolf eyes kept blinking as he didn't understand what this restriction was. Chapter 302. After 2 months of preparation, the mining of the non-ferrous metal veins near the Valar tribe was almost ready. After Sue and Chairman Renersa brought the materials that Chief Valar needed, they had completed their agreement and could begin mining the non-ferrous metal mine. After meeting Chief Valar, the two of them brought the final batch of materials and mining magic machines to the nearby mine. Then they held a short ceremony and announced that the Valar non-ferrous metal mine, invested in by the new flyer, the Renekton Chamber of Commerce, and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would officially open. Because the non-ferrous metal smelting factory in New Flyer was still being built, all the non-ferrous metals that were mined would be stored in the Valar tribe for now. After the smelting factory was built, they would be processed and smelted. There weren't many results on the first day of mining. They didn't even harvest a ton of non-ferrous metal ore. But Sue and Chairman Renersa weren't surprised by this situation. After all, the real part of the mine was hidden under the surface, so it was impossible to mine large amounts in the beginning. Being able to mine ore on the first day was enough to prove that the non-ferrous metal mine was very rich. Moreover, the mine was on the surface, so it was easy to mine. According to the further exploration of the dwarves, this non-ferrous metal mine mainly contained large amounts of aluminum and copper ore. The less than a ton of ore that was mined on the first day was all copper ore. Based on the copper ore that was mined, the copper content in the ore was surprisingly high. According to the Angola tribe's dwarf, who had worked in many mines under the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce, the copper content in the ore was much higher than the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's copper mines. This was a result that Sue was very satisfied with. Currently, because there was a breakthrough in the development of the wind magic generator, the Academy of Magic's Bella's group had worked with Camby and the other dwarves to develop a stable small wind magic generator. So in order to further develop it, they needed large amounts of copper with strong conductivity. Of course, ever since he was reminded by Steel, Sue wasn't as obsessed with electricity research as before. After careful consideration and comparison, Sue discovered that although electricity had a wide range of uses for the industrial system on Earth, it was very important. But for signs, because of the existence of magic, they could use the power of magic to replace the role of electricity in many places, and even perform better than electricity. For example, air conditioners on Earth required electricity to operate. In order to achieve a suitable cooling effect, the power consumption could easily reach 3 or even 4 kilowatts, which would consume 3 to 4 kilowatts of electricity in an hour. Using the most common thermal power generation on Earth, it was equivalent to using at least 0.5 kilograms of coal per hour. This energy consumption rate was obviously extremely high. If it was the Shinfei brand magic air conditioner from New Flyer, the lowest grade magic crystal that wasn't even the size of a palm was enough to support it for 3 days and 3 nights. On average, the energy consumption for an hour was only a fingernail-sized magic crystal. Connecting this energy consumption with the fact that there were magic crystal mines all over the Signs continent and the magic crystal content was incomparably rich, one could easily see that in this world, the magic air conditioner was more suitable than the electric air conditioners on Earth. The more important thing was that consuming magic crystals wouldn't cause any pollution, which was much better than thermal power generation. So although Su-yi still attached importance to electricity research, he didn't place too much importance on it. For him, electricity was just a supplement to his magic machine research. Because magic couldn't solve all problems, when it was needed, electricity could still be used. Other than the copper ores, Su-yi also attached importance to the aluminum ores in this non-ferrous metal vein. Aluminum had a wide range of uses in the industrial system, and various aluminum alloys could be seen all over Earth. Although it wasn't used as much as iron, in many places, the use of aluminum and aluminum alloys couldn't be replaced by iron. For example, in the heavy industries of aviation, construction, and automobiles, the special properties of aluminum and aluminum alloys played an important role. Although New Flyer had already developed many special alloys, they were limited by the properties of iron. No matter how they developed it, there were some special properties that they couldn't develop. Now that they had this non-ferrous metal vein, Chief Saluka and his dwarves would have a lot of room to develop in the future. In the future, the magic machines that the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce could make would become more varied. Su-yi was observing the quality of the ores being mined from the side, while Chairman Renersa was observing the work of the workers in charge of mining the ores. After reaching an agreement with Chief Voller had sent 10 clansmen to work in the mine today. He said that he wanted his clansmen to give it a try, letting Su-yi and Chairman Renersa see if their clansmen were suitable for this work. Through his observations, Chairman Renersa found that although these werewolves were a bit clumsy because this was their first time coming in contact with the mining magic machines, their overall efficiency couldn't compare to human workers. But because the werewolves had outstanding physiques and were stronger than humans, they were more flexible. As long as they didn't need to operate the mining magic machines, their efficiency would be higher than human workers. After observing for a while, Chairman Renersa couldn't help saying to Su-yi, who was still observing the ores, "I've suddenly found that your idea of hiring these beastmen workers isn't bad." Su-yi looked at him in surprise. Although Chairman Renersa didn't oppose this idea before, he never agreed to it. "What? Did you see something?" "Okay." Chairman Renersa nodded. "I can see that these beastmen really have good physiques. Although they are a bit clumsy, they are very suited for doing work that requires physical strength. The mine is a place where there are many jobs that require physical strength, so these beastmen can do it faster than us human workers. So to say, any race has their advantages and it's fine as long as they use their advantages." Su-yi revealed a faint smile. "Moreover, you've forgotten the most important thing. The wage of hiring these werewolves is much lower than hiring human workers." Chairman Renersa couldn't help giving a bitter laugh. Su-yi was right. Because this non-ferrous metal mine was located on the Black Rice Wasteland, which was the territory of the beastmen, when the 3 companies hired human workers, they could only give them a high enough wage to attract them. In the end, the average monthly wage of the human workers working in the mine was actually over 30 gold coins. This far surpassed the average wage of Banta City. Moreover, because it was far from Banta City, it wasn't convenient for the human workers to get supplies. Calculating it all, just to guarantee the normal living needs of these human workers, each person would have to spend close to 10 gold coins a month. This meant that for each human worker in the mine, they would have to spend over 40 gold coins a month on them. This was double the cost of all the workers in Banta City. There were a total of 200 human workers in the mine, so for each of them, the 3 companies would have to spend close to 10,000 gold coins a month. Compared to this, according to the conversation between Su-yi and Chairman Renersa with Chief Voller, when Su-yi said that he would give each werewolf worker a wage of 5 gold coins a month, Chief Voller's eyes lit up and he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Moreover, the werewolf tribe was beside the mine, so they didn't have any living costs. Compared to this, 4 workers in the mine, a single human worker could cost as much as 8 werewolf workers. The difference was just too large. It seems that your idea of hiring beastman workers was correct. Chairman Renursa sighed. Chairman Renursa said with a sigh, if it wasn't for the fact that beastmen are dumb and it's hard for them to control the magic machines, I feel that this mine wouldn't need human workers at all. No, that definitely won't do. Sui shook his head. The majority of this mine has to be humans. We can hire beastmen workers, but most of them have to be humans. Otherwise, if they all become beastmen workers, it's very likely that they will break free from our control. Yes, your concern is correct. Chairman Renursa nodded in agreement. Beastmen are mostly unruly and their beastly nature is hard to get rid of. If this place is filled with beastmen, they might want to take it for themselves. After pausing, Chairman Renursa asked, right, you said to Chief Voller that each beastman family could only get a single work permit, was it because of this? That's only a part. Sui laughed. Chairman Renursa said with a smile, the real goal is that with this restriction, we can let these beastmen families worry about their family members working in our human factories, so they won't dare have any bad ideas towards us humans. Think about it, if the beastmen dared to do anything to us humans, not only would they make the highest position in their family lose their jobs, they would even implicate the entire tribe. Do you think they would dare do this? Chairman Renursa took a cold breath as he looked at Sui in surprise. Chairman Su, could it be that when you wanted to hire the beastmen back then, you already thought of this? Sui revealed a faint smile. Didn't I tell you back then that there was a method to restrict the beastmen? Chairman Renursa looked at Sui in surprise for a while before he couldn't help shaking his head and saying with a sigh, Chairman Su, you really have considered everything. I even feel that you're a bit terrifying. But how can you be certain that these beastmen will have this kind of worry? It's just a job. When these beastmen didn't have a job before, didn't they still live well? That's because they didn't enjoy a comfortable life before. Sui said with a faint smile, believe me. Once they have a stable job and can bring a better life to themselves and their families, they won't be willing to give up this kind of life. In the past, the beastmen were barefoot and weren't afraid of wearing shoes, but once they put on shoes and experienced the comfort of walking on the road, they wouldn't be willing to take off their shoes and walk barefoot again. Chapter 303. He didn't know if the other beastmen wore shoes, but at least the Voller tribe's wolfmen didn't wear shoes. Not only didn't they wear shoes, to Chairman Vincent, they didn't even wear clothes. So when Sui left the Voller tribe, Chairman Vincent and Chairman Renursa stayed behind. According to what Chairman Vincent said, since the Voller tribe's wolfmen were interested in wearing human clothes, he had to have every wolfman here wear clothes made by the Armani Chamber of Commerce. Chairman Vincent even secretly revealed to Sui that he was planning on opening a textile factory beside the Voller tribe, specializing in making clothes for beastmen. Sui appreciated his bold idea very much and expressed that he would support it. But this support was only in words because Sui only stayed in the Voller tribe for a single day. He left the elven and dwarven warriors to guard the mines while he rode a horse carriage alone to the Principality of Constantine to the south of the Black Rice Wasteland. This time he went to the Principality of Constantine to confirm a few more investments and didn't really start. So Sui followed the same route as last time with Anklo. First he met with Head Wine and confirmed that he would invest in a canned fruit factory and a rubber processing factory near Wine City. Then he signed a contract with Duke Stantine, officially giving the rights to the 3 mines to the new flyer. As for when to build the factory and mine the 3 mines, Sui was planning to wait until the canned fruit factory in Banta City's Koror village and the Voller tribe's mines began operations. He would start after he had gained enough experience, so this time Sui's trip was a few days shorter than last time. In just a week, he left the Principality of Constantine again. Compared to when he entered the Principality of Constantine, He had 2 more contracts and 430,000 gold coins left. Why did he only pay 300,000 gold coins in advance, but he was short of 400,000 gold coins in banknotes? It was very clear that the extra 130,000 gold coins was to deal with the greed of Duke Stantine and his ministers, as well as head wine. After experiencing the greed of those fellows in the Principality of Constantine again, Sui returned to Banta City. He felt that the air in Banta City was much fresher compared to the Principality of Constantine. What made him even happier was that after he returned to Banta City, Agnes finally came back. Last time when he came back from the Principality of Constantine, Sui had Agnes bring the 3 Moon Shadow Tribe female elves to the Nightsong Tribe to see Elder Elucia. But without knowing why, after 2 months, Agnes and the 3 Moon Shadow Tribe female elves never came to Banta City to find Sui. When Sui went to the Nightsong Tribe to see Elder Elucia a few days ago, he had mentioned this matter to her. Elder Elucia said that there was no need to rush. The 3 Moon Shadow Tribe female elves were still learning about the situation in the Nightsong Tribe. Now that Agnes was finally back, Sui naturally had to ask her what was going on. Why had they stayed in the Nightsong Tribe for 2 months without making any moves? It's only been 2 months. Agnes' eyes opened wide as she looked at Sui with a confused look. Chairman, in this short period of time, they definitely can't understand how our Nightsong Tribe cooperated with the company. They still can't understand in 2 months? Sui was a bit surprised. Your Nightsong Tribe cooperating with us is a simple matter. It should have been understood in just a few days, so why did they take so long? The efficiency of those 3 fellows wouldn't be this low, right? Agnes looked at Sui in surprise. Chairman, 2 months isn't long, right? We elves don't have short lives like you humans, so we don't place as much importance on time as you do. Seeing Agnes' natural expression, Sui was speechless. Thinking about it, he could only helplessly admit that Agnes was telling the truth. The elves had a lifespan of at least 500 years, and some could even live for over 1,000 years. The humans of the signs only had a lifespan of several dozen years. To the elves, 2 months was the same as a week for humans, so of course it wasn't considered long. The long lifespan of the elves made them very calm, so they didn't pursue high efficiency like humans. Not to mention that the 3 female elves came from the Moon Shadow Tribe, and the Moon Shadow Tribe was in the Principality of Constantine, so they might have been infected with the same laziness as the humans of the Principality of Constantine. Thinking of this, it wasn't strange that the 3 female elves hadn't finished investigating the Nightsong Tribe in 2 months. To be honest, Elder Elucia's actions and words were very different from the traditional elves. Not only did she actively contact a human like Sui, she was very decisive in everything she did and was very efficient. For example, when Sui saw her last time, he mentioned that Chairman Vincent wanted to recruit some elves. In just 10 days, she had sent 5 elves from the Nightsong Tribe to Banta City with Agnes. Sui's eyes turned to the 5 elves behind Agnes. He found that the 3 female and 2 male elves were very outstanding among the elves who had good figures. Especially the 3 female elves whose figures were even more outstanding than Agnes. Their figures were almost perfect and adding in the mysterious elegance of the elves, just by wearing the simple leather clothes made by the Nightsong Tribe and standing there, people couldn't help looking at them. As for the 2 male elves, even with Sui's male eyes, he had to admit that whether it was their figures or looks, they were very outstanding. Just based on appearance, any one of them could easily kill all the handsome human men in Banta City. Sui looked at them for a while before asking Agnes in a confused voice, "Other than models, Chairman Vincent also wants to recruit fashion designers. Why didn't Elder Elucia send anyone?" "They are." Agnes pointed at the 5 clansmen. Agnes pointed at the 5 elves. "The elders said that we elves all have the innate ability to perceive beauty. Since I can be the designer for the new flyer, then anyone can be the fashion designer that Chairman Vincent wants. This designer doesn't just need to be able to perceive beauty. Sui muttered before shaking his head. But forget it, Chairman Vincent only needs the status of elves anyway. Just based on their figures and appearances, Chairman Vincent will definitely be satisfied after seeing them. Hearing Sui's words, Agnes suddenly looked down at her body before asking Sui, "Chairman, do you think that my figure isn't good? That I'm not beautiful?" Sui was stunned. When he turned to see Agnes' serious face, he couldn't help revealing a smile. "Why are you suddenly asking this question?" "Because Chairman Vincent wants to hire us elves as models to advertise for their company. But you've only ever let Steele advertise and never let me advertise, so I think that you must think that my figure isn't good and I don't look good, so you've never thought of letting me advertise, right?" Sui didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "What nonsense are you saying? You're very beautiful and your figure is very good, you're not worse than the 5 of them. The reason I don't want you to advertise is because there's no need. What I care about is your talent in design, not your figure or appearance. Do you understand?" Agnes nodded, but it seemed like she still didn't fully understand. Sui wasn't prepared to explain this matter to her, so he looked at the 5 elves curiously looking around. He thought that Elder Elucia really was a bold elven elder. She actually accepted having her clansmen work for a human company this quickly. When the elves of the Nightsong tribe worked in the New Flyer, they were just normal workers, so they suffered quite a bit when interacting with the humans around them. Now that these 5 elves were really hired by the Armani Chamber of Commerce, whether they were fashion designers or fashion models, they would be people that everyone would pay attention to. These 5 elves, were they prepared to be surrounded by all kinds of humans all day? Facts proved that Sui had greatly underestimated the fanaticism that humans had for elves. Even if the New Flyer had hired many elves, allowing the people of Banta City to see elves appear in the city, so they didn't react as strongly as when Agnes first appeared. When the Armani Chamber of Commerce announced that they were hiring 5 elves as fashion designers and models for the Armani Chamber of Commerce, it created a stir in Banta City and the surrounding cities. The Armani Chamber of Commerce held a special press conference for these 5 elves, and they had the 5 elves appear in the clothes the Armani Chamber of Commerce had specially designed for them. With the figures and appearances of the 5 elves, adding in the carefully designed clothes, they instantly attracted everyone's attention. In just a few days, these 5 elves became stars in Banta City and the surrounding cities. There were many noble ladies and madams who had seen the 2 male elves and were immediately captivated by their appearances, claiming that they were the gods in their hearts. As for the 3 female elves, they quickly became the new generation of goddesses in the hearts of all the men in Banta City and the surrounding cities with the powerful advertising of the Armani Chamber of Commerce. Why do I suddenly feel that I've been forgotten by everyone? Steele looked at the portraits of the elves on the streets and said in a soft voice that was a bit funny, "It seems like the title of Banta Goddess will be given to someone else soon." Sui on the side laughed and took Steele's hand, saying with a smile, "It's fine, it's good that others have forgotten you. That way you can be the goddess in my heart alone." Steele rolled her eyes at Sui. "You didn't have me advertise for the company since last year because of this idea, right?" Sui laughed. "Isn't it because I was afraid you would be tired? Anyway, you didn't want to show your face for a long time, right?" I've indeed been tired of being surrounded by people for a long time." Steele looked around and said with a frown, "But now I've found that not having anything to do makes me feel even worse. Don't forget, you're still a researcher at our Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. If you want to find something to do, you can go to the Research Institute to study magic with Evita and Akali," Sui said. Still shook her head and said with a bitter smile, "The problem is that when I went to the Magic Research Facility a few days ago, I found that I couldn't understand what Evita and Akali were researching at all. After pausing, still tightly held Su-Yi's hand with a confused look on her face. Su-Yi, am I already useless? Su-Yi was a bit surprised. He knit his brows as he looked at Steele's confused expression, knowing that there was no use in comforting her at this time. Countless thoughts passed through his mind before Su-Yi suddenly had an idea. I've thought of a job that you might like doing. Chapter 304. Entering the middle of March, the cold of winter had completely disappeared. The ground outside Banta City that had been frozen by the cold had become warm and moist, as countless pieces of green grass had sprouted from the ground. At this time, it was a good time to go out for a walk. So when the weather was good, there would be countless noble young masters and young misses sitting in their families' luxurious horse carriages as they left Banta City, heading to the green fields outside the city. Although the current Banta City was surrounded by several straight roads and the western suburbs were filled with various factories because the Lord City Lord had designated it as an industrial area, there weren't many green fields left. However, the southern suburbs had been designated as a recreational area by the Lord City Lord, so not only did they keep the greenery, they even opened a canal that brought in the water from the Sandy River. The southern suburbs that had been a desolate place had become a beautiful place with green mountains and clear waters, as well as a beautiful place filled with birds and flowers. Today was another good day, and the sun had just risen into the sky. There were countless noble horse carriages heading out of Banta City's southern gates, heading towards the green fields in the southern part of the city. Countless noble young masters and young misses were planning on taking advantage of this good weather to go out and play, as well as holding a relaxing banquet in the wild. However, today was a bit different from normal. Among the countless horse carriages that charged out of the city gates, there were two things that weren't the same. The young masters and young misses in the horse carriages heard the cries of surprise outside and opened the curtains of the horse carriages. They saw that on the road to the southern suburbs, there were two people sitting on something that was made of two wheels and an iron frame. It was completely flat and looked very strange. The two of them were stepping on two pedals that didn't stop moving, as they quickly moved around a disc. With this disc, the two wheels on the iron frame kept moving forward, moving the two of them along the road. What surprised everyone was that the strange thing that the two of them were sitting on was clearly very thin. Apart from two wheels, everything else was just a frame. However, it was able to carry the two of them forward at high speed. In the blink of an eye, it had surpassed several carriages and ran in front of many noble young masters and young ladies. Seeing the two people riding on this strange, unknown object and speeding along the road, whether it was the noble young masters and young ladies in the carriage or the pedestrians on the road, they couldn't help but be stunned. What are those two people sitting on? How could he carry them and run so fast? However, the two of them just disappeared into the distance, leaving the question in everyone's heart unanswered. The next day was another sunny day. As usual, countless carriages drove out of the city gates and rushed out of the city. But at the same time, at 9 o'clock in the morning, the two strange-looking things once again rushed out of the city gate with two people on them. Once again, they overtook countless carriages and disappeared at the end of the road. The doubts in people's hearts deepened. On the third day it was sunny again. The same thing happened again. The fourth day, the fifth day, for an entire week, every day was a rare sunny day. Every day, countless noble young masters and young ladies wanted to go out for an outing, but every day, those two strange things would carry two people out of the city gate and quickly disappear from everyone's sight. After 7 days of accumulation, this mysterious strange thing had spread through Banta City and aroused the curiosity in everyone's hearts. There were some busybodies who had been waiting outside the southern gate for the next few days and had drawn up the appearance of those two strange things. After analyzing it, everyone found that the principle behind these two strange things was actually very simple. They were just two flat tires on the ground, and there was an iron frame on top of them to support them. There were 2 gears connected to each other to drive them, and finally the people on top of them used their feet to move them. However, the principle seemed very simple, but these 2 strange things could actually move this fast with people moving them, which really was a bit unbelievable. In the beginning, people didn't know what these things were or where they came from, but there were some careful people who guessed a bit from the 2 tires. Tires were something that only the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce produced. Adding in the fact that the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce could produce all kinds of strange things, these 2 strange things were most likely the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce's newly developed magic machines. All the doubts and guesses were finally answered on the 8th day. On the morning of the 8th day, the new Banta Times finally revealed the mystery. People's guesses weren't wrong, these 2 strange things were indeed newly developed products from New Flyer. But it was different from what people imagined. This thing was not related to magic at all. This thing called a bicycle was a human-powered machine that was completely powered by human power and didn't contain any magic. But even if it was powered by human power, as long as the person riding the bicycle was strong enough, they could still make the bicycle move very quickly. According to the news the Banta Times received, it was said that when New Flyer was testing the bicycle, they could set off from Banta City in the morning and arrive at the Falling Rain Valley before noon. It had to be known that the Falling Rain Valley was 60 kilometers away from Banta City, so it would take 3 hours to make a trip with the best horse carriages. The speed of these bicycles wasn't that much slower than the best horse carriages. Seeing the report in the Banta Times, people instantly boiled over. With such a good thing, it would be much more convenient for them to travel in the future. Although horse carriages were good, raising horses was not something a normal family could afford. Although Banta City's public transport system was gradually being established, allowing people to go to most places by horse carriage, it cost money to ride a horse carriage. Not to mention that there were many places that horse carriages couldn't go. Compared to this simple and light bicycle, horse carriages were without a doubt much more cumbersome. So after confirming that this bicycle was a product of the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce, the gate of the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce's service center in the city was filled with countless people. Countless people immediately came to ask when this bicycle would be sold, and everyone couldn't wait to buy one. It seems like I don't need to worry about the sales of this bicycle. Sui laughed and put down the Banta Times in his hand. He turned to look at the wind magic engine in the magic machine development workshop, quickly turning the bicycle's tires. Strictly speaking, this bicycle was something that Sui developed to develop the wind magic engine. Although the bicycle was not a very important commercial product in the light industrial system, the bicycle product contained a lot of extremely important engineering technology. For example, the power structure, the bearing drive, the gear casting, and many other kinds of technologies that could be used in the production of the bicycle. Sui had Cambi and the others develop the bicycle. Other than adding a new product to the New Flyer, it was also to let Cambi and the others gain more experience and theoretical knowledge in the development process. This was very different from Earth. Mechanical engineers on Earth would first learn theoretical knowledge, and then begin practical production. As for the mechanical engineers represented by Cambi in the New Flyer, they first experimented with production under Sui's guidance before learning theoretical knowledge. This was something that couldn't be helped. Sui wanted to speed up the development of the industrial system, so he could only force his theoretical knowledge into them. It was a good thing that Cambi and the other dwarves were very talented in this aspect. Sui only needed to mention a bit and they could deeply understand it, even being able to draw inferences from it. Through developing the bicycle, Cambi and the others had already become mechanical engineers with a deep understanding of the power theory. The next step was for Sui to have them combine the wind magic engine that they had already developed with the bicycle. If they could make a magic bicycle with the wind magic engine as the driving force, It meant that the development of the magic engine could be put into practice. The experiment that Camby and the others were doing right now was to test the stability of the wind magic engine's output and the strength of the bearings. This test had already been going on for 10 days, but the results were something that Sue-Yi wasn't satisfied with. First, the output of the wind magic engine couldn't be maintained, but it would often stop without any warning. Moreover, the output would sometimes be fast and sometimes slow. After Sue-Yi and the other researchers from the Academy of Magic had carefully examined it, they found that this was because the wind magic array inside the engine was spinning at a high speed, causing the air flow inside the engine to become chaotic. This affected the magic array to a certain extent, which affected the output. If this effect accumulated to a certain degree, the magic array would temporarily lose its effect and the engine would lose its driving force. There was another important problem, which was the problem of the materials. The bicycle's gears and bearings weren't that big of a problem at low speeds, but if it was maintained at high speeds for a long time, the wear and tear would greatly increase. According to the estimates, if the wind magic engine was maintained at its highest speed, whether it was the bicycle's bearings or the engine's bearings, they would wear out in less than 10 hours and might even break. This was something that Sue-Yi couldn't do anything about for now. This was because this was a problem of the materials, and the problem of the materials was the hardest problem to solve in the industrial system. Although the Chinese Empire on Earth had a complete industrial system, they had always been behind in terms of materials technology. Sue-Yi was a mechanical engineer of the Chinese Empire, so he wasn't that good at materials. Adding in the restrictions of the country, he couldn't grasp the most advanced materials technology. For this problem, he could only place his hopes in the material research facility led by Chief Saluka. Before this, the material research facility led by Chief Saluka had already given Sue-Yi many pleasant surprises. Now that Sue-Yi had given this problem to him, when the non-ferrous metal veins on the Black Rice Wasteland were extracted, he believed that Chief Saluka would give Sue-Yi a satisfactory answer. Before this, he could only patiently wait. Even if Sue-Yi was anxious to develop the engine, he couldn't be careless at all when it came to mechanical technology. As a genius mechanical engineer from Earth, Sue-Yi was aware of this and had the patience to do so. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.